Now, happy Monday afternoon. Welcome back from the busy sports weekend, and welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis here with you. 4 full hours breaking down the new, undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes. No, I'm just kidding.
Isn't it 3.5?
It is 3.5. I'm going into Westwood One programming. I got so much to talk about today. No, we are here with you until 5:30 today, recapping a very busy sports weekend. What a weekend it was for the Kansas City Royals, sweeping the disgusting, vile, putrid Chicago White Sox.
I believe it's the Cespedes Family Barbecue guys who say that a 4-game sweep should get a categorization of larger than a sweep. They've taken to calling it a mop. So the Royals have mopped the White Sox right out of the city of Fountains.
Nah, that's pretty accurate, too. What a debacle for the White Sox. They are horrible somehow, and they lost their one good player. Luis Robert is now going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. They're just horrendous.
Yeah, that's tough.
We got a lot of fun Royals baseball to get to. When is the last time the Royals had a weekend that was this fun?
It's been a minute. They had that 7-game winning streak last year, but they were a jillion games out of first place at the time, so it didn't really amount to anything.
No, hope is still firmly springing eternal right now, which is extremely exciting for this Royals team. So we'll get to the Royals weekend in just a moment, talk some college basketball this hour as well. Men's national championship coming up tonight. It's going to be Purdue versus UConn. These are the teams that many people wanted to see in the championship. Maybe not all, but many people wanted to see in the final. Didn't have a whole lot of problems during the Final Four round, the national semifinals. They meet tonight. We'll preview the game, talk a little bit about yesterday's women's national championship, which was a fun game. That's also going to come up in my good, bad, and ugly this week, by the way. We'll get to that in the 3 o'clock hour. We've got today's What Is Wrong With You? It's Mock Draft Monday. Matt Verderame's going to join us. Oh, and by the way, one of the biggest names in college basketball is leaving Kentucky out of nowhere. This, if I may make another wrestling reference here, like an RKO out of nowhere, John Calipari is dipping from Kentucky and heading to Arkansas, reportedly. We'll get to that in the 3 o'clock hour. We want to hear from you, your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the show today, and boy, is there a lot of it. The Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. And you can also find us on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. The video is also streaming live on our website, 580wibw.com today. But
You're even forgetting the biggest news that broke when we were off the air on Friday.
That's right. Jerome Tang. He's staying in Manhattan. So much has happened, I forgot that even happened. But I do feel good that I was right about that. And I knew right after we went off the air, something was going to happen there.
Was it 6:45 or something?
Yeah, within 2 hours of being done. Jerome Tang is staying at K-State. We will talk about Jerome Tang a little bit in the 3 o'clock hour, too, because this very tangled coaching carousel web does include the head coach of the Kansas State Wildcats. So we'll get to all that in the 3 o'clock hour. But I did want to start today with the Kansas City Royals and their sweep over the Chicago White Sox. And I understand that the White Sox are horrendous. Absolutely god-awful. In other words, they are butt. But a 4-game sweep is a 4-game sweep. That is not easy to do in baseball. And
it looked like it wasn't going to happen there for a minute.
Yeah, Royals had to show a little toughness, had to overcome a little adversity in some of these games.
You don't expect to win a lot of games when it's your number 5 against another team's number 1, even when it's a team as lousy as the White Sox. That's a bit of a pitching mismatch, and for a while it looked the part on Sunday, but Royals stayed in touch, kept it close, rallied late, got some help from White Sox defense, and the bullpen shut the door. The much maligned Royals bullpen, at least so far this season, got the job done. Clean 8th inning for Will Smith. Solid 9th for James MacArthur.
I believe clean sheet altogether for them when the bullpen pitched this weekend.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. And
Didn't
especially in support of Alec Marsh, to need to call on them to play a bigger role and for them to come out and give up 4 hits in 4 1/3 innings pitched, I think 2 walks during that stretch. Awesome. The pitching has been marvelous so far, starters specifically. And if you're getting 6+ from Brady Singer, you're getting 7 out of Michael Wacha, you're getting 6 or more out of Cole Reagans every time out. That is really impressive. That is really important because then if you already have a bullpen that is shaky, guess what? Less time they have to go out there to make mistakes. We talk about that in football all the time, right? And like having long, drawn out possessions and how the risk of that is that's more opportunities to have a pass tipped and intercepted or to have a fumbled snap or whatever it ends up being, and why quick strikes are so efficient. Same thing with pitching. It's the same kind of principle. If you know what your weakness is, and I think it's fair to say right now the biggest weakness facing the Royals is their bullpen, especially the back end of their bullpen. If you put as little pressure on those guys as possible, you're going to end up with more wins than losses, and I don't think that's really all that far of a jump in logic. And look, if you wanted to give me, look who the Royals are playing. Look who the Royals have been. This was the Royals last year.
Right. Like, we know what it looks like to see a team that is the dregs of baseball. And the White Sox look very much like they are going to be that. And particularly when Lewis Robert injured himself early in the series and they didn't have him available, completely changed the complexion of that team, made them look even worse. When you beat up on the dregs, that suggests that you yourself are not the dregs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, again, I am a believer in Dayton Moore's old philosophy about the 40-game mark being when you have a real true feel for what a team is. Because a lot of things can ebb and flow through 40 games. Anyone can have a good week or a good weekend or even a good month. And goodness knows, you go back to the 2021 Royals, the last time, coincidentally, that the Royals were over 500 this far into a season. And
wow.
Yes, so a month can be deceiving, even as much as a full month. You get to that 40-game mark, you start to have a pretty good feel for what a team is and what a team can be. But I don't think, on the flip side, that it's too early to talk about what a team isn't. And what the Royals do not look like right now is a team that's going to lose 106 games again. Like, at the very least, we are looking at a team that has raised their floor, raised their roster quality sufficiently to where they stand in stark contrast to a team that is probably going to lose 100 games, like the White Sox look like they're going to. So what you saw this weekend is a team that is improving against a team that is lousy. And it is hard to sweep 4-game series. It's really difficult. But it also bears mentioning, just, you want to talk about how far the Royals have come. It's been 3 years since they were over 500 this far into the season. Do you know how many games they won? How many wins they had at the end of April 2023? They had 7.
I was going to say 8. Yeah,
there
wasn't many.
They're already at 6, and it's April 8th. I mean, look, again, I'm not trying to. The team is what's going to convert skeptics into believers here. Nothing I say can convince the hard bitten skeptic to become not skeptical after just 10 games. But this was about as good of a start as I think you could have reasonably hoped for if you were the Kansas City Royals. And a lot of things are happening that bode really well for the next 10 games and the 10 after that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's been awesome to watch this team be able to turn a corner like it feels like they are doing right now. And as good as the pitching has been, the offense was solid for much of the weekend. And we talked about him a lot on Friday, but I feel like it's worth bringing it up again because he had a huge weekend. MJ Melendez is on fire right now.
The post game, he did post game interviews. 3 of the 4 games on Bally Sports.
Yeah, he's the first Royal. Is this true? The first Royal ever to have the game winning RBI 3 games in a row.
I don't know if that's true, but that is what he has done.
I believe it was the first ever, or the first in a really, really long time. I mean, it's been incredible. The fact that he is doing this so quickly this year too. And will he slump at some point? Yeah, he probably will, because A, he's young, and B, it's baseball. That happens sometimes. But you can see the confidence at the plate. You can see the smart approach at the plate. And he, like you have said, Dan, has always hit the ball really hard. Yeah, here it is. This is from Nick Capel, the director of media relations for the Royals. MJ Melendez is the first player in Royals history to drive in the game-winning run in the 7th inning or later 3 consecutive games. It's been awesome to watch. And we mentioned Baseball Savant a lot because it's a great website. It's run by MLB. And if you like stats, if you like visual representations of statistics, they have these charts and players, depending on what their value is, expected statistics, barrel percentage, all these advanced stats relative to the rest of Major League Baseball and put them in percentiles. Red is great. Blue is poor. Gray is average. You know what there's a lot of for MJ Melendez on his Baseball Savant page right now?
Red.
Deep red. Maraschino cherry red. It's incredible what he's been able to do. And it's not just the hard hit percentage. No, it's expected weighted on base, expected batting average. He's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting it where the defenders are not. He's launching the ball. He's getting a good arm or a good launch angle on it. I mean, he's doing everything that you hoped he would be. And it's still too early to say that we're going to get a full season of this because, frankly, if we get a full season of this, we're talking not just All-Star game. We're talking he's going to have MVP votes. That's the way he's hitting the ball right now. I don't think we're going to see this for 162 games. But if you could have even 80% of this production for a full 162 games, you're talking about a guy who raised your ceiling. The Royals added a bunch of floor raisers this year. We talk about the floor raisers versus the ceiling raisers. Floor raisers were Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha, grown adults for the pitching staff who are going to go out there and give you a respectable 5 or 6 innings every single time out. That's something the Royals needed. Those are floor raising guys. MJ Melendez can be a ceiling raising guy because his potential is so high. His athletic attributes are so high that he can take this team to another level. And that's especially important when a guy who you think is in that category, Vinny Pasquantino, has been struggling mightily to start the year. So the fact that you're getting that from MJ is extremely encouraging. And I said it on Friday, and it's worth saying again. I am very happy for him after all the flack he took from people like me.
You were.
I was not nice. I was very mean.
I posted, I believe it was, I think it might have been Friday night. All of the game-winning hits kind of run together for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Friday night where I said something on Twitter regarding MJ Melendez stock that I personally had not sold my MJ Melendez stock. And longtime listener, friend of the program, Sam, replied, Brendan did. So it's well known your stance on MJ Melendez. And
that's fine.
And I think he was kind of a forgotten man when we looked at the Royals for 2024 and what could result in a great leap forward for them. Obviously, they had to improve the pitching staff. And we talked a lot about the excitement of Cole Reagans and needing Brady Singer to return to form and needing to get Vinny Pasquantino healthy and Bobby Witt Jr. continuing to be on a upward trajectory. But we kind of forgot about MJ, except to maybe talk about him as trade bait, because last year felt really underwhelming for him. But again, if you split MJ Melendez's 2023 in half, you saw a hitter who was overmatched and swinging and missing too much and not getting results in the first half of the season. But he was solid in the second half. Like not all-star caliber, but he put together a second half that was a lot more in line with the hitter you would have wanted to see in his second full big league season. And clearly he's consolidated those gains. He's making more contact. He's continuing to drive the ball. I even think he looks better in the field, to be honest with you. And we didn't really discuss this much, but it can be difficult for a player to have to change defensive positions while they're still in the developmental phase of their career at the major league level. That can be a tough thing. Remember, Alex Gordon had to go down to the minor leagues to figure out a new position. And when he was moved off of third base to left field, there was no guarantee that was going to work. And it worked tremendously for Alex Gordon. He won all those gold gloves. He was an MVP candidate at his best. I think he might have his number retired one day by the Royals. Like it worked out as well as it could possibly have worked out for Alex Gordon. MJ Melendez is undergoing something similar right now. He had been a catcher all the way up through his amateur days and is still very new to the outfield, but I think he's getting more comfortable out there. And when you're comfortable in the field, that translates, I think, to your performance at the plate in the same way that if you're uncomfortable in the field, then you are uncomfortable when you come to the plate with a bat in your hand. So I think that being in the second or third year of this transition from full-time catcher to outfielder has also helped him start a season a little bit fresher and a little bit more comfortable, because he does. He looks really comfortable in the batter's box right now.
The easy comparison, and it's sort of low-hanging fruit, but the comparison to everything you just said is Kyle Schwarber, because Kyle Schwarber went through the same thing where he transitioned from catcher to outfielder while still young. He did not begin his career like a lot of first-round picks do in, low A or single A. He was in the developmental league. Like, the Cubs put him in the instructional league to start his career, because they essentially made him a football pick where they said, we're betting on traits. Like, he is not a Major League Baseball player right now. We're betting on this build and this strength becoming a player. They had him in the instructional league before he came up with Chicago. Now, I don't think MJ Melendez is going to be a guy who hits 47 home runs. I don't. But I also think he's the guy who's going to hit better than 197.
And I also don't think he's going to be a butcher in the field the way that Kyle Schwarber has continued to
be.
Like,
yes. He never got better.
Yeah, he never got better as a defensive player. His position is just hitter. Like, at the end of the day.
Can MJ Melendez be a guy who, let me throw out some numbers for you. Bats 250 plus, hits 25 to 30 home runs, and is just kind of in the field. Like, is that a player you'd be happy with?
Yeah, I'd be happy
with that kind of pop, who could probably hit 40 plus doubles too.
Yeah, if he's going to hit 30 home runs in a corner, you live with him being a minus defender. Now, how much of a minus? Obviously, you don't, especially in a big outfield like Kauffman Stadium, you don't want him to be too much of
be like a C minus.
Yeah, like if he could be Stratomatic terms, can he be a 3? I don't think he can be a 1 or a 2 defender. Like Lorenzo Cain was a 1. Okay. Alex Gordon was a 1, just to give you an idea. I think the MJ we've seen is a 4, borderline 5. Can he be a 3? Can he be a 3 defender and produce that way offensively? I think he can. And the question is going to be contact, right? Because the quality of contact is excellent. The quantity of contact was the biggest problem for him in the first half last year. So far this year, he's only striking out 20% of the time, as opposed to the 30 to 35% of the time he was striking out his first couple of seasons. If he makes more contact, he'll do more damage. And I think a 250 batting average might even be underselling him if that's the case, because not only is the contact hard, he's got good launch angle numbers. He drives the ball. He's not like an Eric Hosmer beating the ball into the ground a bunch. He hits line drives and fly balls, and he knows how to backspin it. You don't hit 40 homers in a minor league season if you don't have some real power, some real feel for game power. And the more he makes contact, the more he'll get to that power, and the more productive an offensive player he'll be. It's a very exciting start, very encouraging start for MJ Melendez. This is the guy who was a consensus top 100 prospect before he debuted.
Really fun start to the season for the Kansas City Royals. No game today, but they will be in action coming up tomorrow. 3-game set with the Houston Astros beginning tomorrow.
Can I just point out one more thing about the Kansas City Royals?
Please.
They lead the American League in home runs. The Kansas City Royals have hit 14 home runs in 10 games. That is more home runs than any other team in the American League. When we talked before the season, what was the one thing I said could really get this team beyond? I think they're probably about a mid to upper 70s win roster. What can make you play up? Hit the ball over the fence. Ball go far, team go far, right? They have gotten this power, and this power has come with two guys who I thought were going to be pretty consistent power sources. Vinny Pasquantino has yet to homer, and Hunter Renfroe just hit his first. So very encouraging and very strange sight to see that the Royals are the top team in the American League in hitting home runs.
Real quick, before we go to commercial break, I was telling you about MJ Melendez's Baseball Savant page just a moment ago. I wanted to go see what Bobby Witt's looks like, just for fun. It is very fun, in fact.
It's like that Playboy Cardi album, a whole lot of red.
Best in all of baseball, expected weighted on base. Best in expected slugging. Best in average exit velocity. Best in hard hit percentage. Best in speed. He is the best in all of those things. 98th percentile in barrels and expected batting average. He's unbelievable. He really is incredible. And it seems like he's the one who was promised. It really does feel like he is indeed that dude. We'll talk some more Royals a little bit later on. We've got some tickets to give away from our friends, or courtesy of our friends at Deep Pasquale Moore Injury Lawyers. But coming up next, some college basketball to get to. We will find our men's national champions tonight. Fun women's national championship game yesterday. We'll get to that, plus some Chiefs talk later on this hour on 580 Sports Talk. 2:30 on 580 Sports Talk. The show just getting started. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer with you. Happy Eclipse Day if you went out and stared at the sun. Something that, by the way, real quick, the whole do not stare at the eclipse. Do not look at it. You should not stare at the sun ever anyway.
Yeah, it's not like any worse to do it today. Because during an eclipse, it's just something that generally is a bad idea to do.
Humans versus the sun is not a battle you want to partake in, ever.
You think you're tougher than the sun?
Not smart, guys. Not smart. Hopefully you enjoyed it if that's your thing. Space and sun and that stuff, not really my thing. But if it's yours, I hope you enjoyed it. The Stars will be out tonight for the college basketball men's national championship, UConn versus Purdue. We'll get to the other big news. Bigger news than the game itself, which is Coach Cal. We'll get to that coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. He's headed to Arkansas from Kentucky, according to
everyone.
Many reports.
I think it was Pete Thamel who had it first.
No, you know who had it first? It was some TV reporter in Fayetteville.
I guess that's
Little
true.
Rock.
Yeah, I guess that is true. Yeah, I guess among the scoopsters and the insiders,
yes,
it was Pete Thamel who had it first. But yeah, Wes Moore. Wes with 2 S's.
Yeah, and I had a buddy text a group chat and say, is this real? I need to know what memes I can use. Is this real? And I said, I don't know this guy. I've never heard of Wes Moore before. But he was right. Apparently he was right from the very beginning of that.
Sports director at Fox 16 in Little Rock.
All right. Well, shout out to Wes. Love when someone like that gets a scoop.
The second S is for scoops.
Nice. But we will have a college basketball national championship game coming up tonight. UConn versus Purdue. I said it the other day. I still believe it to be true because we ended up getting the matchup we all thought we were going to get. Purdue moves on. They beat NC State. UConn had some trouble with Alabama because Alabama shot 8 for 11 from 3 in the first half. And guess what happened when they went, 2 of 12 or whatever in the second half? Game got away from them. And UConn, yet again, won an NCAA tournament game by double figures. They are a machine. They are a wagon, whatever you want to call them. That is what this UConn team is. I think Edey versus Klingon is going to be awesome. I called it Godzilla versus King Kong the other day. This is Godzilla versus Gamera. This is whatever big monster matchup you want. This is Clash of the Titans stuff. And that's going to be awesome. What is Purdue going to do with the other 4 guys on the floor? Because Braden Smith did not look good at all on Saturday. And frankly, neither did Zach Edey. I thought Edey was solidly okay, Purdue, but he was not great.
Purdue as a team, I thought they played probably about a C- game, all things considered, and it never felt like they were going to lose. And I felt like that had more to do with NC State.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Coming back down to earth. And
you've seen Spaceballs, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know the scene where they're battling with the Schwartz right before he gets to the self-destruct button in Mega Maid's head, and Dark Helmet comes up and he just starts swinging his Schwartz lightsaber like crazy. Bill Pullman, Lone Star, puts his hand out and keeps him away at arm's length, and he's just swinging away and can't reach him. That's what Purdue did in that game.
Yeah.
NC State was trying. They were fighting. It's not like they quit, but they had nothing. They were too short to use to finish the reference there. They just did not have enough juice. They did not have enough guys. I thought DJ Horn played a really good first half, but eventually the better team won. And the coach team won too.
They lost one of their best shooters. O'Connell couldn't move after he took a bad step, tweaked his hamstring or whatever happened to him. And DJ Burns picked up a nonsense second foul with about 6 minutes left in the first half because he was guarding Zach Edey. So of course he did. And that obviously limited his impact on the game. But no, that was Purdue 9.5 was easy money. Like that was unless NC State truly had a knack for making opponents miss a bunch of wide open threes, because that's what Marquette did and that's what Duke did, and Purdue really didn't. And that was all she wrote for the Cinderella Wolfpack.
And a great run, awesome run, good for Kevin Keats. That bought him 3 more years at least. So a great run for them. People will remember DJ Burns forever. UConn did what they do, and they just had too much firepower.
They're
too
the
many
best
dudes.
team.
They
run the best offense, and they pose the most problems. It's like trying to put your fingers in holes in a hull of a ship. If the hull has been pierced, and there's like 20 different holes, and you're trying to just plug them all with the 5 fingers you've got on your hand. You can't do it. They just present too many problems to you. They're big on the wing. They can score inside. They've got shooters. They've got playmakers. They're deep. Their bench guys help them. There's a reason they were the number 1 overall seed. There's a reason they've been the Vegas favorite to win this thing for a long time. And I suspect they're going to show that tonight against a Purdue team that, I mean, I think Edey's going to get his because he always gets his.
Yeah, he does.
But I don't
know that he will.
But
because as CJ Moore told us, you know who the best defensive player in college basketball is? Donovan Clingan.
It is really hard. Like, if you watch both games on Saturday, and I know this is not like the most important thing. If you're a fan of college basketball, like we are, it's okay to talk about guys as great college players without thinking about, well, what does that mean for their NBA futures? That can be a really boring conversation to have and really kind of misses the point out of some guys. But when you watch Zach Edey and then you watch Donovan Clingan, you can see why one of those guys is a projected lottery pick and it isn't Zach Edey. Like, you see it. You understand that the lateral quickness, the shot blocking ability, the way that they really and truly change games and you can run offense through them that's not toss it up and let him back down. Like, you understand why one of those players is a real pro prospect and one of them is going to go late first round if he goes in the first round at all. Like, you can see the difference. And I suspect when they match up against each other tonight, you're going to notice the difference again.
And generally speaking, Purdue has struggled when you just put a lot of extra pressure on their guards to make plays. That's been the case for a couple of years. Now, they're better this year than they were last year, but they're still young. I still don't think they're all that great. And I think UConn's going to hang on. I jumped on the hypothetical line. FanDuel will offer the hypothetical matchups lines. So I got UConn favored by 5.5 tonight. I put a couple units on that one. I think UConn's going to take care of business.
I have a nice little UConn to win it all plus 465 ticket that I picked up earlier on in the month of March. Let's say. So I am maybe hedge a little bit of that on the Purdue money line tonight, but I'm leaving here with something.
Yeah, no kidding. You going to get back into the old sports gambling game with this one?
What did I just pull up on my phone?
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Might be dropping some units somewhere.
Yeah, what is it now? 7? 6.5?
6.5 last I saw, yeah.
I would still take that. I know Zach Edey's national player of the year, but
their first parlay they have on here. They got the spread. They got Zach Edey to score 20 plus. They got Tristan Newton to score 15 plus. Devin Clingan to record 8 plus rebounds. $10 gets you 75.
The Edey thing is interesting to me because I do think, if he's able to get to the line and gets Clingan in trouble, that is the key. Yeah. They have to get Edey to the line a bunch and get Clingan off the floor because while UConn is still good without Donovan Clingan, he's the centerpiece of the whole thing. Everyone plays through him. He's the centerpiece of the defense. You got to keep him on the floor for as much as possible. If he gets a couple cheapies early, suddenly it becomes a much more intriguing game. I still think UConn would win even if you only get 22 minutes of Donovan Clingan, but I think if he's out there for 30, they're going to cruise. I really do.
There's some interesting bets on here.
I'm sure there are.
The first player one, Andrew Hurley to score 1+ point. Plus 1,100.
I have to pull this up.
You know what? If you're considering betting that, just give me $5.
We also have a phone number you can call. There is an important phone number that you can call. So I saw this from a buddy of mine on Twitter the other day. I have to go pull this up after UConn won the other day. Andrew Hurley has now played in more NCAA tournament games than a vast majority of programs. He has played in 11 games, Dan Hurley's kid. That is more NCAA tournament games played than Austin Peay, Ball State, Boise State, Bucknell, Canisius, Duquesne, Furman, Loyola Marymount, Robert Morris, Siena, Southern. They have all played in 10. He has played in 9. Or he played in 11.
Definitely more than Nebraska and Northwestern.
Yep, that is correct. Nebraska's only played in 8. Northwestern in 6.
That's tough.
I thought that was pretty funny. Women's game yesterday was pretty fun, and it ended exactly the way that I thought it would end, with South Carolina imposing their will, because Caitlin Clark is awesome. She is great, and like I said, something relating to Caitlin Clark is going to come up later in my good, bad, and ugly. But she was number one. She was the number one best player, full body of work in that game yesterday.
She did not shrink from the moment. Like she came out firing, had 18 first quarter points. She finished with, I think, 30 even. She was typically terrific, and she could have had 15 assists if she had teammates who could catch her passes and make layups.
Yeah, if that's the big difference in the game, because if she is player number 1, how many of the rest of the top 10 played for Iowa?
At most 2. At most. Yes.
Because South Carolina was getting Tessa Johnson coming off the bench in your eye hole, burying triples all game, and you think, oh my God.
What were they?
That is terrifying.
Yeah, true freshman, by the way.
A stud.
What were they? Plus 22 on the glass?
Was it even that small? I mean, they killed 51-29. Was that in the final number?
51-29.
And Caitlin Clark said as much after the game. She said, look, you're not going to win many games with that kind of number.
I think Iowa's sophomore post, Hannah Stolke, is a really tough player, and I think she's going to have a really good career. And she's 6'2", 6'3".
I have a friend.
Camila Cardoso is 6'7".
Camila Cardoso was incredible. She is a stud.
She's a bully. She is a flat out bully.
They brought her off the bench last year.
Yeah.
She was a bench player. I have a buddy who's a big Iowa
Mm-hmm.
fan, and he said, I think it was third quarter when South Carolina really started to put some distance between them and Iowa, where the last layup that Stolke just smoked. And he said, this has been a problem all year. It was one thing that you could not do in this game if you wanted to win, and she just did it. And yeah, like, I don't think she's a bad player. I don't know how many of those Iowa players could be on the roster at South Carolina, let alone like play minutes.
Well, Stolke held her own, was the point I'm trying to get at. Like, even giving up the size, she held her own. She got some buckets. She runs the floor really well. They brought in a backup post. Addison O'Grady. Hey, look, us Grandview High School Wolves, we got to stick together. But anytime they had her on the court, they should have let her, like, use foreign objects when trying to guard Camila Cardoso, like a taser or something. That would have made it fair, because any minute she was on the court was a minute that Iowa wasn't going to score inside, and South Carolina was going to do whatever it wanted. And it's not like you can just collapse inside on that South Carolina team and say, okay, we're going to double Cardoso. We're going to double the post. We're going to dig hard on entry passes. We're going to make it so you can't score inside. We're going to crash the glass. Well, okay, here's Tahina Paopao, 46% from three, in your face all game long.
Yeah, she's awesome too.
Here's Tessa Johnson raining threes off the bench.
I thought Raven Johnson was great.
Here's Malaysia Full-Wiley, a true freshman who, if she were on any other team in the country, she would be a household name by the end of this tournament.
She will be next year.
Yeah, she will. She rules, man. She's got handle. She's got quickness. Iowa didn't have anybody who could stay in front of her. No, it was Iowa deserves a ton of credit. Like, they could have gotten blown off the map in the second half, but they hung tough.
They got it back within 5 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Gabby Marshall hit some shots, and Kate Martin played tough like she always does. They hung tough, but the size and the depth were the biggest advantages for South Carolina. And the coaching. Let's talk about Dawn Staley for a moment, who is 109-3 the last 3 seasons at South Carolina, including 2 national championships. This year accomplished that feat with 0 returning starters from last year's team that was unbeaten before Iowa got him in the Final Four. She's won 3 national championships. She's completed now this undefeated season. When we have thought about and discussed women's basketball historically, it's Gino and Pat, right? Gino Auriemma, who's winning, like the sheer volume of winning that he did is never going to be surpassed. It's like John Wooden, right? Yeah. Like, nobody's winning 11 titles in 13 years.
It's a lot like John Wooden, I think.
Yeah, it's probably exactly like John Wooden.
Because after Wooden's dominance, college basketball kind of changed. And you had more stars and more programs that were big deals.
More parity.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to use that term. Gino Auriemma has 6 undefeated seasons at UConn. I should not use the past tense, because they're going to be awesome next year. They got the number 1 high school player in the country coming. Paige Beckers is coming back. Maybe next year they go undefeated. Maybe next year it's their year. But we've talked about Gino. We talked about Pat Summitt. We've talked about those 2 as the titanic figures in the history of women's college basketball. Now it's time to say it's Gino, it's Pat, and it's Dawn, because what Dawn Staley has done is right up there. Do you know that from the years 2000 to 2006, this is my favorite Dawn Staley stat. This sounds made up. From the years 2000 to 2006, Dawn Staley won an Olympic gold medal.
Yes.
And was a 6-time WNBA All-Star. And won the Atlantic 10's Coach of the Year award twice.
Seems impossible, doesn't it?
It does. It seems ridiculous, but this is an all-time great figure in women's basketball. She's the only
Basketball.
Yes.
Not women's. I'm telling you right now.
And we can eliminate the qualifier 100%.
There are coaches in the Big 12 she could coach circles around. I guarantee you.
Yes.
And I've said this before. I remember hearing this, and it really changed the way I viewed the women's game in particular, because you don't have nearly as many players who can just go get theirs. The reason Caitlin Clark is so incredible, there aren't a lot of players who can just get theirs with handle, with skill, with that kind of shot.
Behind the back, sidestep, like long range three.
Every NBA player can do that. Every single one. You don't have that in the women's game. There's just male and female athletic differences. So the X's and O's part of the game is so different and is so pure in a way you don't see in the men's game. And Dawn Staley's the best at it, or is among the very best at it. It's incredible. I have someone on my Twitter timeline who all day has been unironically saying, they're a Kentucky fan, unironically saying, I want Dawn Staley.
There's a reason the Portland Trailblazers interviewed her 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not to be an assistant either. They interviewed her for the head coaching position.
And you know what? I bet you she'd be a better coach than Chauncey Billups.
Probably. As much as it pains me to say about my fellow Coloradan, you might be right. The last point I want to make about Dawn Staley, early in that game, Iowa came out like they were ready for the moment. They didn't back up. They didn't shy away from it. Caitlin Clark came out hot. They were up 10-0. I think they were up 22-9. And I'm sitting there watching thinking, wait, does Dawn Staley maybe want to consider calling a timeout, trying to stem the tide, maybe make an adjustment? But she did not, and her team made the adjustment anyway. And somebody on Twitter tweeted something to the effect of, Dawn Staley doesn't call timeout. She just stares at her players and say, y'all are going to figure it out. And then they do.
Yep.
And her former player, Aaliyah Boston, responded to that tweet and said, yeah, this is 100% true.
We're talking some Chiefs football coming up on the other side of this break here on 580 Sports Talk. the next 9 minutes, I would recommend you head over to our website, 580wibw.com. Right in the middle of the homepage, underneath today's stream for the show, you will see the Choose Your Trip contest that Alpha Media USA is running. And if you click on that link and enter the keyword TRIP, TRIP, you will be entered into the Choose Your Trip 2024 contest. Alpha Media is going to pay for your trip, folks. Wherever you want to go, they're going to pay for it. So enter the keyword TRIP, TRIP, over at 580wibw.com between right now and the top of the 3 o'clock hour. Right at 3 o'clock, the word is going to change. We'll let you know the 3 o'clock hour word coming up at the top of the hour. They're only good for the hour they're announced in. So be listening. We'll have another one for you coming up as we lead off the 3 o'clock hour of the show. Really quickly, and we're going to get to more of this coming up in the 4 o'clock hour in Mock Draft Monday. More likely for the Chiefs, their first trade of the draft is a trade up, or their first trade of the draft is a trade down?
More likely, I think it would be to trade down, because I think that sitting at number 32, you have a pretty good idea of how the draft is unfolding and a pretty good idea of what's going to be available to you if you trade down just a few spots early into round 2. And if you're able to pick up an extra third-day draft pick, I think that's something Brett Veach would be interested in. So just based on that, just based on kind of the way that Brett Veach likes to feel out the draft, and based on past instances of teams trading into that lower portion of the first round to make sure they get their guy before the start of round 2 and the start of day 2, I think it's more likely that the Chiefs trade down.
I think so as well. I would be fairly surprised if the Chiefs traded up in round 1. But on the other hand, Bill Barnwell, who is one of the very best NFL writers in the business, he has a piece today talking about potential trade options for every team who should move up. He's got the Chiefs as a team that could or should move up in the first round this year, which is a little surprising to me. But he again mentions left tackle, which we talked about a bunch last week. I don't know. I think it's a good left tackle draft. The really good ones are indeed good this year. Oh, what's the value at number 32? And again, do you trust the scouts? Do you trust the front office? If you're Brett Veach, do you say, we trust our guys? We've got someone who's pounding the table for so-and-so who's going to be available on day 2. Let's add an asset and move down and get him. That's the big question. Generally, the answer for that has been, yeah, let's just move back. I would still be fairly surprised if they traded up here. I really would.
Yeah, unless, I mean, if there is a guy that they love and think, okay, he's a nailed on either day 1 starting left tackle or day 1 starting wide receiver, because I think that's still a possibility, certainly a good possibility that the Chiefs draft a wide receiver with that first pick. I could see them going up a few spots. I don't think they've got the draft capital to get into like the middle of the first round unless they trade a first rounder next year. And it just doesn't strike me that that's where the Chiefs are in their current mode of roster building, that they're going to take too much from future drafts to apply towards a current draft.
If Troy Fautanu, the offensive tackle from Washington, slid into the 20s, I could see it. I could see that specific scenario.
I don't think he's getting past Seattle at 16 for what it's worth.
I don't think he should. I would take him before 16. I think he's that good of a player. I was just listening to the Athletic Football Show this weekend. Dane Brugler, the Athletics football or NFL draft guy, said, I have heard people who tell me they think he's the best tackle in the draft. A draft that includes Joe Alt, who a lot of people, he is this year's like safest pick. Like, pick this guy. He is going to be a nailed on day 1 starter from the very beginning. Pick Joe Alt. And he said there are people who think Troy Fautanu from Washington is better than that, which is pretty dang impressive. I would take Fautanu wherever you could find him, honestly. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we got a lot of college basketball to get to, including Coach Cal to Arkansas. Matt Verderame will join us and more here on 580 Sports Talk. go. It is the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero, and that is Spencer Dupuis. And we're here with you until 5:30 today, off just a little bit early because we've got pregame coverage from Westwood 1 of the NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament Championship. UConn versus Purdue. You can hear the game. Kevin Kugler and company on the call. Who's he with tonight? Clark Kellogg. That's who he's doing the game with. Kevin Kugler, Clark Kellogg on the national broadcast of the national championship game here tonight on 580 WIBW. Y'all staying up for this one?
Oh, yeah.
8:20 start time.
That is a late start, but I will be there no matter what.
Wait, it's 8:20?
Yeah.
I feel like it's usually 8:20 East Coast time.
Nope. 9:20.
Wow.
9:20 East Coast time. 8:20 local time.
That's wild.
That is wild.
Yeah, pretty crazy. 6:20 start at the arena.
This is true.
So that's something. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that it is so late. But
Wait, we got 3 hours, nearly 3 hours of pregame coverage?
I was also surprised by that, to be honest with you.
I thought 2 hours.
Yeah,
Are you sure about this?
About the start time?
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay, I'm growing concerned now that you may be misleading the people. 8:20 Central Time.
Yeah.
You're right. I'll be damned.
Wow.
It's late.
And reminder, it's only if you're not listening on the radio. You got to tune into TBS, not CBS.
Yes, it's an even year, which means TBS gets the national championship game on TV.
We're not going to get one shining moment until like midnight.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be 1 a.m. on the East Coast. I don't know how he did it before.
Only the real beaters get one shining moment live, and that's me. I am built for this. You Johnny-come-latelys who are just coming nowadays to the staying up late game on a weeknight. Ha! Can't handle this.
I really pulled the Brennan last night. I didn't fall asleep till 3:30.
Hey!
Not on purpose.
That's not healthy.
Living the
Not
dream.
on purpose. I was very disappointed.
It took me a while to fall asleep last night. I got in bed like 2:30, 2:35, something like that. It took me a while to fall asleep. I was juiced though. I was jacked up because I'd been watching 8 hours of wrestling before that. I was fired up. I was thinking about Cody Rhodes all night long. We'll get to the good, the bad, and the ugly, the weekend recap coming up here in just a little bit. Matt Verderame is going to join us to go around the NFL coming up later on in this hour as well. We've got some Royals tickets we will give away coming up here in just a little bit. We'll give those away here shortly, courtesy of our friends at D. Pasquale Moore.
Don't we also have a code word?
I was going to say, we have a new code word.
You guys are correct. The Choose Your Trip contest from Alpha Media and 580 WIBW. Head to our website, 580WIBW.com. You'll see our show video stream right in the center part, right in the heart of the website front page. If you go underneath that, the first link says Choose Your Trip 2024. It even has 2 exclamation points. That's how excited we are about this. All you got to do is click on that link. You can pick a trip to anywhere you want to go. Airfare, hotel, VIP experiences, wherever you want to go. And you will see the spot to enter the keyword. Your 3 o'clock hour keyword is Vegas. 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 So go enter that right now. That doesn't mean you have to win a trip to Las Vegas. Anywhere in the world. So go to 580WIBW.com, click on the Choose Your Trip link, enter the keyword Vegas, Vegas. That is only valid this hour. We'll have a new word starting in the 4 o'clock hour. So go enter it right now, 580WIBW.com.
So you could choose your trip to Las Vegas?
You could.
Could you choose your trip to Las Vegas, New Mexico?
Yes, you could. Anywhere you want.
What about
Is it continental United States?
Anywhere you want.
So I could go to Punta Cana.
You
if
could.
I didn't work in this.
I could go to
establishment.
Las Vegas, Uruguay.
Yes, you could. You absolutely could. Well, you cannot because you work here.
Well, I can't win. Yeah.
Yeah. You also cannot.
Yeah, I said that. I said if I didn't work at this establishment.
I also cannot. And no, for those of you wondering if you are one of our coworkers listening, you cannot have your wife use her maiden name or something like that. That is also not allowed.
But you listening on the other side of this radio or watching on our YouTube stream that has no relation to anybody Alpha Media, you can win.
Yes, you can win. 580WIBW.com. Go enter the keyword between now and 4 o'clock. The biggest college basketball news of the day is not the national championship game tonight, which is actually kind of crazy. It's more than kind of, it's incredibly crazy. The biggest news is that John Calipari is reportedly leaving Kentucky for Arkansas. This came out of nowhere last night. And I think it is fair to say, if you are tuned into college basketball on a national level, it's not surprising that this relationship has run its course, because there have been murmurs for a long time that some boosters at Kentucky were sick of the early exits, that Mitch Barnhart, the AD at Kentucky, has been sick of what the program has looked like recently, and that it feels stale. It feels like it's run its course. Sometimes that happens in relationships. Sometimes it just comes to a natural end. But for it to be Arkansas, that is amazing, shocking, and it came out of nowhere. It was last night. I was joking about this earlier. I had a buddy text me thinking that Wes Moore, the TV guy from Little Rock, Fox 16, thought that was a fake account. Can I believe this? Is this real? No, it is very real. And then Matt Norlander and Pete Thamel and Jeff Borzello and all the other major national college basketball writers, they jumped on it as well. They got the details. And I believe, Dan, you were correct. It was Pete Thamel who initially reported 5-year contract will be what John Calipari eventually signs in Arkansas. The money is going to be fascinating here, because I don't know that people really realize this, since Arkansas is not as big of a brand as, well, frankly, many other programs in that part of the country and in the Southeastern Conference. Arkansas has money, big money, and big money boosters, the BMDs, like the Walmart family. And notably for this particular coup, the people, the heir to the Tyson chicken patty, frozen chicken tender empire, have so much money to burn, and apparently are friends with the Caliparis, which is
Longtime friends.
I did not know that until
Didn't
last
know that
night.
either.
They've got so much money to burn, they are just going to spend to bring John Calipari to Fayetteville.
Well, according to some, this is a move. This is a move forward.
Yeah, Seth Greenberg, who is about
ridiculous take.
Yeah, he's got about 3 brain cells left. Said that this is not moving on from Kentucky; it's moving forward. Matt Jones, who runs Kentucky Sports Radio, tweeted, "Imagine saying you're not moving on from your wife, but you're moving forward with another wife. That makes no sense at all." This is truly a coup. I'm still a little bit surprised that it seems like this is indeed going to happen.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty inevitable. You've already got players entering the transfer portal from Kentucky.
Commits, uncommitting.
Commits, decommitting. It certainly does seem like we're going to get there. When I first saw this, I had one thought. This is Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M. This is a coach who has succeeded at the highest level of his profession, whose playing style is a bit outmoded, I think you can say.
A bit, yeah.
Like, he's still running those floppy screen sets that were really in vogue in like the 1980s, 1990s. A coach whose style is a bit outmoded, a coach who's still considered an outstanding recruiter, and a program with an inflated sense of self, willing to pay out the ears for the end stages of a coach's head coaching career. This is Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M all over again. And I suspect it'll be about as successful as Jimbo Fisher's tenure in Texas A&M.
What is going to change? What about John Calipari is going to change at Arkansas?
Color of his wardrobe. That's
is that it?
I honestly, what incentive, if 9 years without going to the Final Four at Kentucky, I'm sorry, 8 years. Last Final Four was in 2015. You know how many times Kentucky's been 8+ years without going to a Final Four? It doesn't happen very often in the history of Kentucky basketball.
Nope.
In fact, the longest drought in Kentucky's history was when they went from 1999 to 2010 without going to a Final Four. You know what they did in 2009? Hired John Calipari. I don't think anything meaningfully changes. He's been the same guy for the last 8 years. He recruits like crazy. He gets the best freshman classes. He gets all the great one-and-dones. He brings them in. He struggles to find the right lineup combinations. His team gets kicked around, loses games it shouldn't lose early in the season, hit their stride in February. They get to March and they get beat. That's what Kentucky basketball has been the last 8 years. And I have no reason to expect that will change because I think Kentucky can still be Kentucky without John Calipari. It was Kentucky before Cal got there. It'll be Kentucky after. But Cal's just going to be Cal.
Yeah.
And that was great in the 2000s when he got Memphis to the doorstep. I mean, you look at like the scope of John Calipari's career. There's a reason he's in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
To get UMass to the Final Four, to get Memphis to the national championship game, remarkable accomplishments. But Kentucky's still going to be Kentucky. Kentucky was Kentucky before Cal. Kentucky will be Kentucky after Cal. But Cal is, you're starting to see diminishing returns at a place where the returns do not often diminish because the talent level doesn't change. Kentucky's always got Kentucky caliber players. Arkansas, the caliber of player at Arkansas kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. And it was flowing under Eric Musselman. They went to 3 straight Sweet 16s and 2 Elite 8s. And the minute that turned sour this past year, they wanted him gone. They have boosters willing to drive him to Los Angeles to take the USC job. So can Cal deliver at Arkansas what he has been unable to deliver the last 8 years at Kentucky? Because fairly or unfairly, and I think it is unfairly, again, program with inflated sense of self, Arkansas basketball. The expectation is going to be that he's going to go to a Final Four and he's going to win national championships. He's going to bring back the Nolan Richardson glory days. At the very least, he's going to replicate what Eric Musselman did the last 3 seasons before this one at Arkansas. Can he even do that anymore? Because he hasn't.
I would like to ask you to look back both at this year's UConn team, because they're about to win the national championship. I'm pretty convinced of that. But they're the best team in the country at the very least. How many freshmen contribute for UConn?
Just the one.
Stephon Castle.
Yes.
Who's a stud.
And he's going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft.
Stephon Castle. But they're Tristan Newton, senior. Cam Spencer, senior. Alex Caravan, sophomore. Donovan Clingan, sophomore. Guys who have been there. Hassan Diarra, senior. Samson Johnson, who had a big game the other night, junior. Those are the guys we're talking about who are the contributors for UConn. I'd like to take you back to the 2022 national championship game, to the 2022 national champion Kansas Jayhawks. How many freshmen were in the rotation in the national championship game?
Were there any? Who am I forgetting?
If you want to include KJ Adams, because he played effectively 2 plays in the entire game, he was out there for the final minute of the first half and was out there for the final defensive play of the game. If you want to include KJ for that, that's a stretch. Other than that, Ochai, CB, David McCormick, Jalen Wilson, Remy Martin, DeJuan Harris, Mitch Lightfoot, Jalen Coleman-Lands, all those dudes, what do they have in common? All veterans. Jay Will was the only underclassman. He was the only sophomore, and he was a redshirt sophomore. He was an old sophomore. Those are the guys who won the national championship there. How long has it been since a freshman-led team has won a national title?
2015, Duke.
That doesn't win in college basketball these days. It doesn't do that.
Not coincidentally, that's the last time John Calipari went to a Final Four.
Yes.
And that was an incredible team. And maybe if he'd won that national championship, maybe it would have brought him even longer goodwill instead of going 38-0 and getting tripped up by Wisconsin in the Final Four. But yes, now the question is, and I think this is a fair question to raise about that, is the fact that now we see veteran-dominated, senior-dominated teams, is that a function of a lot of veterans still being in college basketball because of the COVID years, and that's something that goes away once the COVID players run out of the COVID players? It's an odd way to refer to
that. I know what you mean,
but
though.
like the COVID era players, when they run out of eligibility and you're back to 4 or 5 year guys, does that then change the calculus a little bit and swing things back in favor of the teams that, okay, maybe all their guys are 19, but they're still more talented than anybody else? Because we're going to see 2 things happen. We're going to see the COVID year players phase out after this next season. And we're also going to see, I think, some more one and dones because G League Ignite just folded. The NBA's dissolved G League Ignite. So the class of players who have been skipping college to go that route rather than skipping college to go play in like New Zealand or wherever, those players now might consider college. And the next versions of Scoot Henderson or Matas Buzelis, a Sunrise Christian kid who went to G League Ignite, or Ron Holland, who's going to be a lottery pick this year, those guys are going to go to college instead. And maybe that raises the level of teams who do bring in the NBA prospect one and dones, which is always going to be Cal's thing. He's not going to change course. If he was going to do that, he would have already done it. Because, again, he went 8 years without going to a Final Four at Kentucky. And not just that. He went 4 years, 20, 21, 22, 5 years without seeing the second weekend at Kentucky.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to work out the way Arkansas thinks it does. Like, I don't think this makes them a national championship contender right away. And he'll still recruit well. I bet a couple of these kids who are decommitting from Kentucky will commit to him at Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, this will be a great example because there will be some Kentucky fans who, oh, so much for loyalty when you committed. Bro, they didn't commit to Kentucky. They did not commit to Big Blue Nation. I hate to break it to you. They committed to John Calipari. That's what you do in the recruiting thing. And I get it. I totally understand it. That's why guys transfer to follow coaches all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think they're suddenly a national championship contender, though. I am fascinated by who Kentucky goes after. One name that has been brought up a ton is Nate Oates, who's at Alabama, who I think is a really good coach. I think his style of basketball would drive Kentucky's core fan base crazy. You're not going to play any defense. Look at how they reacted to Cal's team not playing any defense this year. That's Oates' whole thing, is don't play defense, go shoot threes. And it wins a lot of games. They got to a Final Four this year. It's different when you're Kentucky, though.
Yes.
Things are different when you are the team that always has the target on your back.
Also, the big number with Nate Oates is $18 million, as in that's his buyout. And I know Kentucky's got some deep pockets. Every school who competes at a high level has boosters with extremely deep pockets, but $18 million is a big buyout.
It is, but it's also Kentucky. I mean, there were reports last year that they had raised enough to pay the buyout, which, speaking of last year, do you remember who was rumored to be the top target if Cal had been let go before this past season? Or this current season, I guess, for one more day?
Does his name rhyme with Snot Boo?
It does. It does. Mitch Barnhart, according to the streets, the rumor mill, loves Scott Drew. There are boosters at Kentucky who love Scott Drew. Scott Drew has for what he has done at Baylor, the fact that his buyout is like $4.5 million is frankly embarrassing for that school. that program shouldn't exist if it was not for Scott Drew.
Yeah, and he's done everything you can do. There's nothing more to do. There are no more mountains to climb for Scott Drew at Baylor. They won a national championship. Yeah, it was a fake one in the COVID year, but they won a national championship.
No one else won it that year,
as
much as I hate to say it. They have that ring, and he has that title.
And I am sure that folks in Waco are as firm in their belief that they would have won the 2020 national championship as folks in Lawrence are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
as this folk is right here.
Yes, exactly. That wasn't going to name names, but my point is that Scott Drew's accomplished everything he's going to accomplish in that job. And if Kentucky came calling, I think he'd probably say yes. I don't think he's so loyal to Baylor that he wouldn't look at an opportunity to coach one of the programs in college basketball, because Baylor can win all at once. You're never going to be Kentucky.
And there has been chatter that Scott Drew has been unimpressed with the NIL package that Baylor has put together. And I'm sure they'll give him a new contract after all this and they'll commit more to it. But there has been plenty of talk that he has not been impressed by that. I'm not saying for sure he's going to go, but if I'm Kentucky, that's probably my first call. That might be my first call before Nate Oates, if we're being completely honest with you.
I think those are the only two guys you call that are in the college ranks. You make both of them say no. Then maybe you Billy Donovan.
Billy Donovan, come on down. I will help you move. I will fly back home to Chicago and I will help you move, Billy. You want that Kentucky job? I will move your furniture in for you in Lexington. I would be happy to.
Feels like that might be leaving ahead of the torches and pitchforks in Chicago and getting back to the college game. This might be the opportunity for Billy Donovan to do it. I would be very surprised if it's not one of those three. Like, I don't think it's going to be Bruce Pearl.
No.
I don't think it's going to be Chris Beard.
No.
I think it's going to be one of those three guys.
So, Spencer, you texted us last night and said, is Jerome Tang's name going to come up for Kentucky?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's a big enough fish for Kentucky. I don't.
I don't think so either.
Unless
if Arkansas fans were acting like he wasn't good enough for the Arkansas job,
yeah,
think about the reaction Kentucky fans.
See, I said that the other day about a different coach in women's basketball.
True.
And here it is. It came to fruition.
Your alma mater's head coach.
Yes. I thought Virginia Tech didn't even get a look.
I'm not going to try to speak anything into existence here, but if I'm a K-State fan, I'm not worried about Kentucky. I'm not. I might be worried about Baylor.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, are we going to
that's the ghost now.
The big dominoes.
If Scott Drew is Kentucky's next head coach, do we have to do this same song and dance with Jerome Tang and Baylor? And
probably.
I mean, Baylor would reach out. You would think they'd be negligent not to gauge interest, not just from him, but from all of their former assistants. They'd call Lubbock.
They'll call McCaslin.
Yeah, they'd call Lubbock and ask Grant McCaslin if he wanted the job.
Call Wichita State.
Yeah, see about Paul Mills.
Yeah.
Although Wichita State going 12-19 or whatever they went might have dimmed his star at least enough for now.
That might have been year zero for them, though. Honestly,
frankly, it was. It would be very disappointing to have to do this all over again because I do think Jerome Tang does have some loyalty to him, and I do think there is some. My word is my bond, and if this contract extension gets done, that's what this is a race against time. Like, what happens first? Kentucky hires a new coach, or we get the press release from the Kansas State folks about Jerome Tang's contract extension. Because if he signs on the dotted line, I think then he would not consider another job, no matter how appealing it might be.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. We have to get to a commercial break. We'll come back, wrap up the weekend with a quick good, bad, and ugly, and then Matt Verderame will join us here on 580 Sports Talk. A quick recap of the weekend that was in the good, the bad, and the ugly with Brendan, Dan, and Spencer here on 580 Sports Talk. My good, easy one last night. Cody Rhodes, he finished the story, ended Roman Reigns' 1,316-day reign as the WWE Undisputed Champion. Finally, Cody Rhodes did what his dad, Dusty, could never do. Won the big one. Won the world title. It was a great WrestleMania in general, but that had to finish that way, and I'm glad it did.
Thumbs up for the whole show. You enjoyed it?
I did. There were a couple down spots. The Usos fighting each other on Saturday was very bad.
I saw Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson made an appearance.
Yes, Jason Kelsey showed up, helped out Rey Mysterio. There's a crossover for you. But yeah, overall, very good. I give it like a B plus, A minus overall. A plus ending though.
I like when the guys I've heard of show up.
Yeah.
I like when like Bubba Ray Dudley is a guest ref, or like The Undertaker pops up in the main event for no discernible reason. Like more of that. More late 90s, early 2000s nostalgia, please.
Plenty of that.
My good from the weekend. I always love it when a lefty golfer thrives. Akshay Bhatia, 22 years old. He's now a two-time winner on the PGA Tour, won in a playoff at the Valero Texas Open. Gets to play Augusta, which is favorable to lefties. Get on the Akshay train. Hopefully he's recovered from that left shoulder injury he suffered while fist pumping and celebrating his tying putt on the 72nd hole, which is a real thing that happened.
My good and my bad are tied together.
Okay.
It's good that former Marshall women's basketball coach Kim Caldwell is now going to be the coach of Tennessee. But now the program's in shambles, and she'll probably take her associate head coach, because her associate head coach is going to get like a $200,000 raise just by going there to be her associate head coach. And
so what is the good here?
The good is that a coach from Marshall is moving up.
Okay. All right. Fair
Like
enough.
it was going to happen.
Okay.
I knew it was going to happen. Just didn't think it was going to happen after year one. I thought year three. But I didn't think they would make the NCAA tournament last year either.
True. You take the good with the bad. I get that.
Yeah,
My
good
bad.
and bad together. See?
No, all right. Fair enough. Mea culpa. I was wrong. My bad for the weekend. The Chicago White Sox. They are pathetic. There's really no getting around it. That team is abysmal.
My bad also from the golf. Denny McCarthy's approach on the first playoff hole. He had birdied 7 straight holes, birdied 8 of 9 on the back 9 to get to the playoff, coming back from 6 shots down. And then his third approach shot in the par 5, he chunked his chip 90 yards into the creek.
Ew.
Yikes.
Not great.
Tough one, Denny.
My ugly for the weekend. Diana Taurasi, Lynette Woodard, how many other people? Why is it that basketball, not just women's basketball, this is a basketball problem. Why is it in basketball that the old heads refuse to just hype up younger players and the current generation? Why? This happens in the NBA all the time. This now happens in women's basketball, which I guess means the women's game has made it.
Happens across sports. Ask Goose Gossage what he thinks of modern day baseball.
Well, that's true. And there are examples of it elsewhere. It's not always, hyping up the next gen in the NFL, certainly not in baseball either, but it's such a plague in basketball. Like, David Taurasi, you're one of the greatest of all time. No one is touching what you did. Why are you complaining about Caitlin Clark so much? I don't get it. I just don't understand. She can be great and still not have the accolades you did or have other strengths that you did or did not have. It bothers me. Why do we have to act like this?
Yeah, GOAT talk and legacy talk is so boring and so tiresome and detracts from the joy of just getting to watch great players play.
Yep.
In their time and in the times before and in the times to come.
Couldn't agree more. You have an ugly?
That was my ugly.
My ugly is I had to take my girlfriend to the airport on Saturday, but I had to get up at 4:15 in the morning.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly.
And it was a Friday night watching the women's Final Four. I got home at like 7:15, and I laid down then all of a sudden it was like 3:15 in the afternoon. So that's partially why I didn't go to bed till 3:30 this morning.
No, I get that.
So my whole body's like out of rhythm.
Before we get to Matt Verderame, who will join us coming up on the other side of this commercial break, we've got Royals tickets to give away from the Di Pasquale Moore Injury Attorneys ticket window. You can find Di Pasquale Moore Injury Attorneys in town, 534 South Kansas Avenue, Suite 160. Again, Di Pasquale Moore Injury Attorneys. We want Texter number 3, 785 272-9429. Text into the Top City Metal Supply text line. That is how we are giving away the tickets today. 785-272-9429. Texter number 3, we got a family 4-pack of tickets for tomorrow's Royals game against the Astros. We will find our winner during the break. Matt Verderame will join us after the break right here on 580 Sports Talk. Really quickly, before we get to Matt Verderame, I want to give a shout out to Clint, who is our winner of today's Royals tickets, courtesy of DePasquale Moore Injury Attorneys. We'll have more tickets to give away to Royals baseball throughout the week. But now it is time to bring in a man who recently, at least according to his Twitter, changed his baseball allegiances. Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, also the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon, and that football show at the KC Sports Network. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and of course, he joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Matt, how has your first week as a Brewers fan been?
Gotta tell you, it's better than being an A's fan. I never thought I could give up a team because I'm one of those people. Look, I've been a fan of the team since I was 5, literally in every case, every team I root for. And I always said, like, I don't understand how people can do that. It's so ingrained in you. And John Fisher proved to me that it actually can happen. Like, I stuck by the Knicks for 20 years of complete garbage. The A's, between the relocation, between the owner, and the complete lack of even trying to win a baseball game, like actively trying to lose, I just said, you know what, I'm good. And I've gotten to know some people with the Brewers through some different channels, and they've been awesome to my family. We went there for a game last year. They gave my daughter a personalized jersey, let her out on the field, got to hang out in the dugout. Like, I've decided. I'm going Milwaukee.
Hey, certainly better than the A's, although, to be frank, I'm not sure what team would be worse than the A's right now. Maybe the Chicago White Sox. They're pretty pathetic, too. They just got swept by the Royals. Yeah, there you go. I think a lot of Chicago feels that same way. Well, Matt, let's get to the NFL. Some big Chiefs news late last week. Mike Dana coming back to Kansas City on what I thought was a pretty team-friendly deal, all things considered, for his level of production the last few years. What do you think of that move to bring Mike Dana back?
Solid. I knew, look, it had been common knowledge. I feel like it had been reported out there, but I was told a couple of weeks ago when the Snead thing went down, like, look, Dana is a guy they want to bring back. Like, this is somebody that really is important to them. And, I went and did some digging, some light digging after he signed. And these numbers actually surprised me. He played more snaps in almost every game last year than Amenahu did. I would have thought that Amenahu had played more snaps just based on once he came back from suspension and everything else. And Amenahu played really well. Certainly it wasn't like he wasn't producing. But Dana played 74% of the defensive snaps last year. He has seen an increase in production every year. In sacks, every year he's gone up. In tackles, every year he's gone up. Quarterback hits, tackles for loss, every single year. He has really taken to Spagnuolo and Cullen and the coaching staff in general. Overall, the only thing I was surprised by was I was surprised for 3 years. I thought at this point in the offseason, a lot of times you get one-year deals, whether the player wants a one-year deal so they can prove themselves, but the team doesn't want to commit to more than 1 year. I was surprised that they essentially signed them for 2 years in a team option, but I think it's a good deal. I projected $8 million at the beginning of the offseason for him. I thought that's what he'd get, $8 million per. I thought he'd make $2 and $16. I think that's basically what it is with some funny money in the third year. But good for him and good for the Chiefs. They have a very, very deep rotation now with Dana back in full.
What do you make of the approach to just completely bring everyone back from last year's defensive line? I mean, a lot of these guys are under contract. You had to get Chris Jones done. You just drafted Felix Anudike-Uzomah last year. You already had Amenahu under contract. But to bring back Mike Dana, and your depth is Derek Nottie again and Tershawn Wharton again, does it make sense to just run it back with this same group, or were you hoping they might add a few new flavors to that room?
I thought maybe they could add a different defensive tackle next to Chris Jones, but I'm also not overstung about it. Like, Dana plays a lot on the inside, and so does Amenahu. So I don't really care. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I like that they brought Mike Pennell back. Mike Pennell is a very good run stuffer. That's fine. Like, you got to have those guys too. And Wharton's a rotational guy. Like, to me, the main crux of this line is going to be Dana, Amenahu, Jones, Karlaftis, and then what are you getting out of FAU? Right? That is kind of the wild card in this whole thing. But I think all told, like, they had one of the best defensive lines in the league last year. They performed great. So if I'm Kansas City, I'm not all that worried about it. Like, I think now you pretty much go into the draft saying we need a tackle and we still need receiver help, especially with the uncertainty around Rashee Rice. You could make a real argument beyond that. They don't need anything. I mean, yeah, maybe a corner, like maybe just even if it's just kind of like competing for depth, stuff like that, sure. But they're pretty stacked. I mean, everybody beyond tackle and receiver, you're fighting for backup snaps.
Our guest is Matt Verderame, who is ever present. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame and find links to the Matt Verderame Show, That Football Show with KCSN, and of course his work with SportsIllustratedSI.com. He joined us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday for some NFL talk here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, if the Chiefs end up not making the 32nd overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft, we were talking about this earlier, do you think it is more likely that is because they traded up or because they traded down into the early portion of the second round?
That's a good question. I would say, I was trying to think of the draft except I would think that if they move out of 32, that they'll move up. That Veach would be aggressive. That's kind of his nature anyway. That's kind of his MO. He is not a guy that typically moves back over. Sometimes in the latter rounds they will. But Brett typically likes to be aggressive. And if you're the Chiefs, at this point in your maturation, if you will, as a team. You're not trying to draft 10 guys. Like, you're trying to draft 2 or 3 guys who matter, who make a significant difference. I don't know. A couple of years ago when they drafted Karlaftis, McDuffie, Cook, and all those corners, and Pacheco, like, even though they were a very good team, that team needed an overhaul defensively. They needed a lot of new guys in there. They don't need that with this team. Like, I would argue they're almost better off taking 5 guys than 9. Now, I get the whole, like, well, you can have, more tickets, more darts to throw. I get all that. I just think if you're Kansas City, like, let's say you're sitting there and at 23, a receiver or a tackle that you did not expect to be there sitting there, I think you just go up and get the guy, if it's a cost within reason. So I would think that if they do it, they might actually try to be aggressive and go up.
If they did trade up, again, we'll expand the hypothetical here. Would that be more likely for a receiver or more likely for a left tackle?
I think a tackle. I think a tackle because now to be clear, for anyone who's out there who's not like keeping up on the draft day and night, which to you I would say, God bless you. Look, this is a loaded class at both those positions. Like, you talk to people in the NFL and they will tell you, more than a few people will tell you, between quarterback, receiver, and tackle, that might be 20 of the picks in the first round. Like, it's obscene how many guys from those 3 spots are going to get drafted first. But the reason I would say tackles, I don't think the need, while it's certainly there at receiver, I don't think it's such a need that they're going to just freak out. Like, I don't think there's a big difference between wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 9. Now, if Brian Thomas is there out of LSU, maybe he's the exception. Maybe they'd go try to get him. I'd be pretty surprised if he's there. And I also will throw out, if Brock Bowers is somehow there, I think the Chiefs would do anything to get him and Kelsey together for 2 or 3 years. But I don't think he's getting out of the top 12. At tackle, there's probably like 4 guys who are going in the top 15. But then there's another wave of guys, another 4 or so, 5, maybe 5, that are going to go in like the early to late 20s. If the Chiefs love one of those guys more than any of the others, maybe that's where they would say, hey, let's go up 8 spots and go get this guy and give up a mid-round pick.
Matt Verderame, our guest here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, the Chiefs found their backup quarterback last week after we talked to you as they signed Carson Wentz. What do you think made him attractive to be their backup quarterback behind Pat Mahomes?
He knows the offense. I mean, he played in Philadelphia with Peterson. So I think that's why they went and got him. And he's a little bit younger than Henne, than Matt Moore was, than Gabbert. So, if things go well and there's a good fit there, there's a world where maybe he even sticks around for a few years. Wentz is a guy who's interesting because when I saw that signing, I had competing thoughts right away. On one hand, he is inarguably better than any backup that Mahomes has had. I mean, whether or not you like Wentz, you dislike Wentz, whatever. Like, he's clearly a better player than Blaine Gabbert or Chad Henne or anybody like that. On the flip side, there's a reason that Carson Wentz is now in his 15th season. And the Eagles and the Colts got rid of him despite a ton of dead money. Just basically were like, get out. He has not always ingratiated himself in the locker rooms. Now, you can make a strong argument, and a very reasonable one, that it's going to be different in Kansas City because he is not going in there to start. He knows clear as day, hey, man, you're sitting behind Mahomes. And your job is to sit there with a clipboard and be present and help out when you can and be a good teammate. But I think that is going to be the one, I don't want to say challenge, but kind of thing to watch here. He's bounced around the league the last few years. Yeah, because his play has not been awesome, but also because he has not been someone in the locker room that you go, yeah, he's been an awesome. So I wouldn't say he's a bad guy by any stretch, but just somebody who at times I think is lacked in the leadership capacity.
Finishing things up with Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated and SI.com, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, as he does every Monday at this time. With the draft just a few weeks away, Matt, and we'll get to our mock draft Monday coming up next hour, is there a player, and regardless of position, that maybe you have seen or heard that not a lot of people are talking about, but you feel like the league is higher on them as a first-round pick or a day two guy who's maybe not getting the right amount of attention?
Yeah, I'll give you a few. I mean, I think, one of the guys, and I think it's starting to happen now, but like Michael Penix was talked about as this guy who it's like, oh, he might go in the second round. He's the sixth quarterback of these guys. I don't know that that's true. There are a lot of people in the league who think Michael Penix is a guy who should be drafted top 50 picks. Now, I think a lot like Bo Nix, you have a very wide range of opinions on him. There are some people who look at both of those guys and say, hey, they turned the corner their last couple of years. They lit up the Pac-12. They have all this talent. Then there are other people who go, yeah, well, they played college football for the better part of a decade. And in the case of Nix, he was not good at Auburn, and he flamed out there and then went to Oregon and was excellent. And in the case of Penix, he was not good at Indiana, and he had a million injuries. And then went to Washington and found himself, albeit with a very good supporting cast. So I think, that's an interesting thing. The other one I think that's interesting is it receiver. Once you get past those top guys, I mean, everybody knows that Neighbors and Adunze and Harrison are top 10 picks. But once you get into the Ladd McConkeys of the world and the Xavier Worthies of the world, like one guy who I think a lot of people are into is Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, who's a day two guy. Not going to be a first round pick, but I think he's probably going to go somewhere middle second, somewhere in that range. A lot of people think that he is a guy who has an elite route running hands combination. And we have seen guys like that come into the league and dominate early. And Puka Nacua was like that. His teammate, Cooper Kupp, like that. We've seen guys come in and be mid to late round picks and have that kind of combination and dominate. I think Pearsall's a guy to watch out of Florida.
On the flip side, who's getting too much attention? Who's the league not so high on? Who's being talked about as a first round or an early pick kind of guy?
That's tough in the sense that this is the time of year where everyone in the league talks of everybody because if they're interested in them, or they're not interested in them, they just want them to go higher. But I would say that I think if you look at this class, I guess not to not answer the question, but I think the cornerback class there's a very, very wide swath of people who will sit there and say, hey, look, I don't know that there's any corner that I'm in love with. I think most people like Mitchell, the kid out of Toledo, I think he's kind of the one where there's a consensus like he's top 20 pick. Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama, I think is the second corner off the board. But there are some, there's some like, well, would you take him in the first? Is he more of an early second guy? There's a lot of, there are some people who will tell you that they think four corners should go in the first round. And then there are some people who say, no, there's one. It'll be interesting to see in what has become a very premium position here in the last 15 years in the NFL, how many of those guys last into day two, and do we have a major run on them come the earlier part of day two? I think that's a position to watch where maybe some teams aren't as high on as they are in previous years or have been in previous years.
Matt Verderame covers the whole NFL for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. You can also find his Chiefs-centric show, the Matt Verderame Show, on Patreon, including a free episode this week. And you can find his work over at the KC Sports Network as well on That Football Show. He joins us every Monday at this time. And as always, Matt, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
That's Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Awesome stuff from Matt, as always. We've got to get to a break. More 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news. now it's the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. He's Spencer Dupuis. We're here with you until 5:30 today. Just an hour and a half left on the show because we've got to get out of here for pregame coverage for the national championship game for the men's national basketball tournament, NCAA. All of those go in some order. I got it wrong, but that's fine. UConn versus Purdue tonight. UConn favored by 6.5. I'm surprised it's not more, to be completely honest with you. You're banking on casuals who only know Zach Edey, maybe? I don't know, man.
You can get into this game for $98.
Yeah, he sit on the moon.
Yeah, where do you think you're sitting for? The seating is crazy. I pointed it out to my wife while we were watching the games on
Even
Saturday.
the media seating's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
We've done that,
We
partner.
experienced that one. Holy cow. At least we could see the game, though. The way that they have the stadium set up for this, there are seats that are facing the floor, but they're so far back past where the end zone would be, they're blocked off by a wall, and you can't actually see the court. It's outrageous. And there were people sitting in them because there were some sections that clearly there was nothing going on there. People were sitting in those seats. You could see them. I don't understand. Put the damn games back in basketball arenas. I know it's never going to happen. I know I'm complaining about something that is never going to change, but it bothers me.
At the very least, get rid of the platformed court in the center of the football stadiums.
Yeah.
Just do it like you used to do it back when you had them at like the Georgia Dome or the Alamo Dome or the Silver Dome. Put it in the corner. Sell the seats you can sell. Put some temporary seating up. Make it feel like a basketball game.
The vibe is wrong. The vibes are all bad.
People pay a lot of money for those lower level seats, and then they get there and they are further away from the floor than they would be if they had been sitting in the upper deck at like where the Suns play, if they'd had it there in Phoenix. I don't even know what the name of that arena is. It changes every 2 weeks.
By the way,
You mean stadium?
No, I mean the Phoenix Suns, the basketball team.
Yeah.
is it still Talking Stick?
Might be. That's as good a guess as any.
It is currently the Footprint Center.
Oh,
What?
Sure it is. Great. By the way, so DraftKings, they've got Connecticut favored by 7 right now. 66% of the bets and 71% of the handle, the money that has been bet, is still on Connecticut. Everybody is on UConn in this game, which makes you feel like, oh no, man, should I know something? Like,
Right.
Is it a worry that everyone? I'm not worried. To
no.
be completely honest with you, I also got a better number than that, but I'm not worried. I'm really not. I think UConn hammers them in this game. We'll get some final thoughts on that when we get to headlines later on in the show today. Here in the 4 o'clock hour of the program, we've got Mock Draft Monday coming up. Today's What Is Wrong With You? And we've got to get to the pitching injury epidemic around baseball. We didn't touch on it. Was it Friday when the MLBPA came out with their statement about the pitch clock?
No, that was yesterday.
Was that yesterday with the pitch clock? Thank God.
Saturday. It was over the
Saturday.
weekend.
Maybe
It
it
was
was
Saturday or Sunday. But
And
yes.
then MLB responded and said, no, you're wrong. This has gotten to be such a mess. We're going to talk about it coming up later on in the show today.
I've got
a
a lot of thoughts. But yes, let's do a keyword first.
Yes. Well, we would love for you guys to be a part of the show. YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. That's where you can find us. You can also text in 785-272-9429. That's the Top City Metal Supply text line. We've also got your keyword for the 4 o'clock hour for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip sweepstakes. You can head over to 580wibw.com. You can click the link to the contest. You just go right beneath where our show is streaming. Watch the show, by the way. Click on Choose Your Trip 2024. You have to wait a second for the page to load, but you will see a place to enter a keyword. It even says keyword here. Choose your trip. Your 4 o'clock hour keyword is Seattle. 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 So take that keyword, head over to 580wibw.com, type it in. That's all you have to do, and you will be entered to win a trip to wherever you want to go. You get to pick airfare, hotel, VIP experiences, all of it. The keyword is only valid this hour. So by 5 o'clock, we'll have a new keyword. Won't be the same one anymore. So go enter Seattle, Seattle, and you'll have your chance to win, your entry in to win the Choose Your Trip 2024 contest from Alpha Media. All right, let's get to Mock Draft Monday. We are closing in on the start of the NFL draft. It is 17 days from today. The Kansas City Star, I regret to inform you, or honestly, I'm pleased to inform you, is at it again. Another 7-round mock draft from the Star this week. Not our pal Jesse Newell, though. This time it's Blair Kirchhoff, the longtime writer for the Star. He's going wide receiver with the first pick for the Chiefs. In fact, that is going to be a trend in Mock Draft Monday today. But Blair Kirchhoff has the Chiefs going wide receiver, Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell from Texas with the 32nd overall pick. Second pick, last pick of the second round, Cooper Beebe, interior lineman from Kansas State. Third round, Elijah Jones, cornerback from Boston College. Fourth round, number 131, Dwayne Carter, a defensive tackle from Duke. Tight end Jared Wiley from TCU in the fifth, as well as another receiver, Luke McCaffrey from Rice. And then with the 221st pick, all the way in the seventh round, Beanie Bishop, cornerback from West Virginia. Let's start with A.D. Mitchell here. Do you like Mitchell as a fit for the Chiefs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that one.
Unquestionably. Tremendous speed, the ability to make things happen at any level of the passing game.
The big play receiver threat the Chiefs have been missing.
Yes.
For the last 2 seasons now.
Yes. It's one thing to have fast guys. Like the Chiefs have some fast guys.
Mhm.
Like McCole Hardman is a fast guy. Not as fast as he used to be, but still fast guy.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to have big receivers.
Mhm.
But the guy who can, anytime he lines up, you don't know what route he's going to run, but he's got the potential to turn it into 6. Yeah, the Chiefs haven't had that since they traded Tyreek Hill. And I don't think A.D. Mitchell is a Tyreek Hill level player, but he's got the ability, I think, to be a home run hitter in the Chiefs offense.
So that's a win right there. Second pick. This is, I think, the more intriguing one. Cooper Beebe. We know how good Cooper Beebe is as a football player. I have seen, and I've told you this before, I have seen Cooper Beebe anywhere from first rounder to day 3 to like 4th round, because there are questions about the arm length, some of the athletic testing, all of that. He is one of this year's prime tape versus measurements. You know, which one do you trust more? Are you a measurements guy? Are you a tape guy? I would take Cooper Beebe in the first 2 rounds. I think he's a good enough player to do that. I'm not really worried about arm length because, like a lot of things, when you're talking about the length, it's more about how you use it than the actual measured length. And for Cooper Beebe's arms, I think that also applies. I would take Cooper Beebe in the second round. If he's there at 64, Chiefs may need a future starting guard. Who knows what the future looks like for Trey Smith? I would take Cooper Beebe, and I would not have any concerns about it. Not one.
See, I like the player a lot.
Mhm.
So I don't want this criticism to be misconstrued as criticism of the player, because I think that Cooper Beebe is good enough to start day 1 for an NFL team at guard. I don't think that the Chiefs are an NFL team that Cooper Beebe is good enough to start for on day 1. Not because I don't like the player, but because the left guard for the Kansas City Chiefs is Joe Thuney, and the right guard for the Kansas City Chiefs is Trey Smith. And those are 2 of the best guards in the business. And I do not think it is prudent to use a second-round pick to take a player who will not start for you, particularly when you are trying to win a 3rd Super Bowl in a row. I think you're looking for immediate contributors. I think you're looking for immediate starters. I do not think Cooper Beebe is that for the Chiefs. I think he is that for a lot of other teams in the league. I think he's going to make whatever team drafts him very happy. I don't think it makes sense for the Chiefs to draft Cooper Beebe.
Even if you think you're getting 3 starting years out of him after this year.
Even if. I mean,
Interesting.
If they drafted a guard early, that would be a sign to me they don't think Joe Thuney's going to be ready for week 1. That they think they're going to need somebody that they're worried about the long-term ramifications of that pectoral injury to Thuney, which I think it's fair to be at least a little bit concerned. He is in his 30s. But I think we just talked to Matt Verderame, and he mentioned that the Chiefs are in a spot where this draft, they don't need like 7 to 10 guys to fill out their roster and play roles. They need to come out of this draft with 2 or 3 guys who make a difference. And Cooper Beebe is not a day 1 difference maker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He is a day 1 difference maker for other teams who are not as settled at guard as the Chiefs. but he is not a day one difference maker for the Chiefs. I would not make that pick if I were the Chiefs.
3rd round, Elijah Jones. 7th round, Beanie Bishop, a pair of cornerbacks from BC and West Virginia specifically. I'll be completely blunt with you. I don't know a single thing about Elijah Jones. If you're telling me the Chiefs will take a defensive back this year, safety, corner, hybrid guy, does not matter. The Chiefs are going to take a defensive back this year. I trust Brett Veach drafting defensive backs more than I trust anyone with anything. Like that, fine. Wherever you take one, I trust that guy's going to be a good player because that's all the Chiefs have done. I like Dwayne Carter in the 4th round. I've seen a lot of people say he might be a guy who can sneak into day 2. Player from Duke. If you get him mid, or I guess that'd be late 4th round, I'd be thrilled with that pick as your new future depth at that defensive tackle spot. I mean, if he develops well, maybe that's your number 2 next to Chris Jones going forward. Hard to say. I like that pick. I don't know about Wiley. That feels like kind of a wasted pick to me, to be completely honest with you. I mean, I know the Chiefs like to run a lot of multi-tight end stuff. Right now, it's just Kelsey and Gray. You're not bringing back Blake Bell in all likelihood. You're not. Jody Fortson already signed elsewhere. You need more tight end depth, so that's fine.
Matt Bushman's still in the organization?
He is, yeah. Matt Bushman is still around.
Maybe this is finally the year that Matt Bushman Hive is rewarded for their patience.
God, I hope so. We've been on that train for years now.
They like him.
Enough to keep him for 2 years?
They have liked him enough to keep him around for the last 2 years. I don't think that's a coincidence.
I don't think so either. BYU guy, just like Andy Reid. So maybe he's the depth. I don't know that I love Wiley, the player, to be completely honest with you. And if you're, I don't know. I don't love that pick. I do like Luke McCaffrey, though. 5th round, very late in the 5th round. I like Luke McCaffrey a lot. He's not his brother or his dad, for that matter, but he's a shifty guy. He's more of your true prototypical smaller slot receiver in the NFL. I don't think he's a 100 catch guy, but I do think he can be a good player at the next level. I like McCaffrey.
I think this mock draft glares to me. There's no left-right tackle. There's no tackle. There's interior defensive line, but there's no outside guy.
On the offensive line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big need. Clearly, because they haven't re-signed Donovan.
No, I think that's a fair point. I mean, this would indicate, if this is how it unfolded, it would indicate the Chiefs have more confidence in Wanye Morris, or they want to bring back Donovan Smith, which I don't necessarily know the Chiefs feel either of those 2 ways, as we talked about last week. All right, let's go to NFL.com. Here's the one I alluded to earlier with a trade up. Chad Reuter, who's covered the draft for NFL.com for a long time, he's got the Chiefs moving out of the 2nd round, giving up their 2nd round pick and moving up from number 32 in the 1st round all the way to 17 to take Xavier Worthy, the wide receiver from Texas, who famously set the new combine record for the 40-yard dash. I will be blunt about that. I hate that. I hate that idea. You want to move up a few spots to get your guy? Fine. And I like Xavier Worthy. You can get a starting caliber wide receiver for this team after 17. I think that's way too much to give up for a guy who, while I think can be good, I think you can find just as much value just waiting where you are or trading up not nearly as far. I don't like that personally. The other picks here, Will Shipley at the end of the 3rd round, the running back from Clemson. I do like that. Cameron Richardson from Mississippi State. Again, cornerback. If each takes one, fine. I trust him. Jordan McGee, linebacker from Temple, and Frank Crum, offensive tackle, Wyoming. Both of them in the 5th round. The trade up here kills this one for me. I would not do that. Yeah. I would not do that at all.
I would be very surprised if they traded up 15 spots.
Yeah.
Like, again, we'll go back to the conversation we just had with Matt Verderame, where he said, look, if there's a guy they like in the 20s, like that they really like at either tackle or wide receiver, and they're still there as the draft turns, the corner gets into the 20s, then I think you make the move. But I think jumping 15 spots in the middle of the 1st round, that's the kind of thing that costs you like next year's picks. And I don't love that. I don't love trading from future years drafts if you're the Chiefs.
Because I don't think the last pick of the 2nd round plus 32 in the 1st is enough to move up that far.
I don't either.
Yeah.
And your 7th, apparently?
Yeah, I don't like that trade. I'm out on that one. I'm cool with Shipley if he's a future running back. But then again, you have 3 running backs already. So I don't know. That's like, or is it 3 or is it only 2 right now?
If you count Deneric Prince, it's 3.
Okay. All right. Okay. Then maybe Shipley does make a little more sense. My apologies for forgetting that.
I think the 3rd day is really interesting. Like, I think you can identify what positions the Chiefs are going to draft. It's just the order in which they find their guys. But I definitely think they're going to take a third-day defensive back because that's what they do.
Yes.
And I think a third-day running back is definitely on the table for them as well.
I would love it to be Shipley, honestly. I think he's a really good player. All right, final two. One of these is just one round, but it's the same pick in the first round. Both Max Chadwick of Pro Football Focus, also, here's a fun fact, Facebook friend of mine, as well as Nick Baumgartner of The Athletic. They're both going Ladd McConkey, wide receiver from Georgia, number 32. I have to say it. It has to come out. Yes, he is a white wide receiver. No, he is not Wes Welker. He is not Julian Edelman. He is not insert generic Danny Amendola, New England Patriots, white, short wide receiver. Ladd McConkey is probably a better athlete than Wes Welker was. He's bigger than that. Is he as good of a player? I mean, probably not. Wes Welker might be the best slot receiver ever, one of the best ever. He's not the same kind of guy. That's going to come up. People are going to joke, oh, white wide receiver. Oh, they got their Wes Welker. Different kinds of players. I like Ladd McConkey. I don't know if I would take him 32nd overall. I like him, though. So 2 different mock drafts had him. We'll get to the other picks from The Athletic in a moment. Yay or nay on McConkey?
I'm a nay on Ladd McConkey. I'm a nay on him at 32. That's a guy I think you trade down and you could take on day 2. That's that to me.
I agree with that. I would be much more like if he.
I think he'll be there at 64. Like, what are we doing with Ladd McConkey?
If he lingered
he barely
around,
stayed on the field this last year at Georgia, so the injury concerns are real. The production wasn't like explosive. He had a real nice combine where we found out, oh, he's not like athletic for a white dude. He's just athletic.
Well, and here's the thing too: when drafts have positions that are so deep, and this year it's wide receivers where it is so deep. Those positions often you can get a lot of these guys to slip because a lot of teams feel like, oh, we can get a guy who's just that good later. We can wait till the second round. We can wait till the third, fourth round, and we can go get that guy then. I don't know that he'll make it to 64. I don't think he'll have any problem. If you wanted to trade back into the 40s from that 32nd pick, I think you get Ladd McConkey there. So I like the idea. I don't hate that player fitting with the Chiefs, but I don't think the value there is very good for McConkey. The rest of the draft from Nick Baumgartner at The Athletic, he did 3 rounds. It's Ladd McConkey in the first, Mike Hall Jr., defensive lineman from Ohio State, second round, and then Tylen Grable, offensive tackle from UCF, with the 95th pick in the third round. You're not, people who do draft scouting and analysis as a career, they tell you not to scout the helmet, right? Because everyone's a failure from X coach or X system or X school until they're not. All of Jeff Tedford's quarterbacks were busts, and then there was Aaron Rodgers. Every Ohio State quarterback sucked in the NFL. C.J. Stroud just won Rookie of the Year and looks like he might be the next big thing in the NFL. There's always everything is the same until it's not. You're not supposed to scout the helmets, right? I am going to break that rule with both of those picks in the second and third round. I don't want anyone who was on the Ohio State defense the last couple of years, except for the big safety. Well, who got hurt? What was his name?
The one who's coming back?
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. What
is his name? He was awesome in that one game early in the year. Oh, God. I'm so mad that I can't remember his name. No, not Ohio Congress. Ohio State safety. Come on, Google.
Yeah, that's not going to work for you. I'm getting safety resources.
What is this? I have to know his name because it's driving me insane.
Caleb Downs?
No, not Caleb Downs.
He's the new guy.
Yeah. He's Samoan.
Josh Proctor.
No.
The Samoan kid's the defensive end. JT Tuimoloau.
Is that who I'm thinking
of?
of?
You're thinking of the big defensive end. Yeah.
All right.
The edge. Yeah. JT Tuimoloau.
All right. That must be who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. I like that.
You want to give me JT Tuimoloau? I will take him happily. I don't want anyone else from that bummy Ohio State defense. Third round pick 95. Tylen Grable, offensive tackle, UCF. I watched every single snap of UCF versus Kansas at David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium this past year. I wouldn't invite him to training camp. No one I saw in that offensive line for UCF, I think, is an NFL player. No one. And I know that was one game. It was the 4th game of the year, 5th game of the year. I understand that you're not supposed to do those things. I watched him play against KU. That offensive line got massacred by what we considered all year to be maybe the weakness of the KU team, which was its defensive line. They were better by the end of the year. Week 4, week 5, whatever that game was, killed UCF. No. That's a firm no for me. That's day 3 developmental pick maybe to me. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a starting, if the Chiefs are really going into this draft looking to fill the void at starting tackle, I don't think they're waiting to the 3rd round to fill it.
No, go. You want to talk about film versus measurements? Go watch UCF's offensive line from this past season. Yuck. That's Mock Draft Monday. As always, we'd love for you to let us know what picks you would like to see the Chiefs make this year, just 17 days away from the draft, either in the YouTube comment section, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, or on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up next. We've got some MLB pitching issues to get to as well, plus your texts, plus your YouTube comments. They're all coming up on 580 Sports Talk. It's time for the first What Is Wrong With You of the week here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, and Spencer with you. 2 new stories going head-to-head today in our second full week of the month. This is a great month. When the month starts on a Monday, you get 30 days. We'll get 4 full weeks of What Is Wrong With You, then the semis and championship final 2 days of the month. Could not work out more perfectly. 2 stories to start off the week. Dan, we will have you go first today.
We're going to Houston, H-Town, and we meet a mother and daughter who are in business together.
Oh, my.
56-year-old Consuelo Maria Dalbo and her 18-year-old daughter, Isabella Dalbo. And they're in the news because they've been traveling across the country giving illegal butt injections for $6,000. Police said both of the Dalbos were planning on injecting an unlabeled brown liquid into the butt of a customer on Wednesday. Usually it's brown liquid Never mind. However, what they didn't know was that the customer was an undercover officer. Consuelo then gave a Xanax to the officer to relax before the injections. She was paid $6,000 in cash to do the procedure. The mother-daughter duo was arrested during the sting operation conducted by the FDA and the Houston PD. Officers seized bags of illegal injectables and medical supplies. Both have been charged with unlawfully practicing medicine without a license. Consuelo was also charged with delivering a controlled substance called alprazolam. While out on bond, Consuelo told KHOU 11 in Houston that while she isn't a licensed doctor in the U.S., she did attend medical school in Mexico for 3 years. Believe me, I do it with my heart. And everybody who knows me, they know me, Consuelo said. I do it because they really need it and not just because they pay me. Prosecutors said the FDA is now in the process of testing the substances. Consuelo's charges could be upgraded depending on the outcome of the ongoing investigation.
Man, look, do whatever you want to your own body. Look good for yourself. That's fine. The injection look, not for me. This mother-daughter duo seems to love facial injections as well.
Be intimately familiar with injecting substances to make them look more full.
Yeah. This is so funny. So did they actually inject this officer?
I don't think so. I don't think it got that far.
Oh man, that would have been so funny. Yeah, this is messed up.
I just wanted to say illegal blood injections on the radio. Frankly, that's why this story made the cut today.
I mean, it is very, very funny. Did attend medical school in Mexico for 3 years. Okay. Would love the documentation on that. All right. My story, you'll never believe this, but we are going to have more Xanax in my story today. So we're headed down to Flagler County, Florida, Palm Coast to be more specific, where an officer is heard telling a Florida woman, 30-year-old Amber McCann, that they were doing an investigation. Told her this in the parking lot of a Walmart in Palm Coast. Officer said, we're doing an investigation right now. Apparently someone walked out with, and before the officer could finish his sentence, McCann said, quote, "A cart? Yeah, that's me."
Nah.
McCann told police she was playing a game called 21, which involves a person grabbing as much merchandise in a store as they can and then walking out without paying while not trying to get caught.
That's not a game.
I don't know about you guys. That's a lot different than the 21 I played growing up.
No, that's just stealing. You're just stealing. It's not a game. You're just stealing. You're just shoplifting. You call it whatever you want. Yeah, this is a new game. It's called Fun Time, and it's where I steal things as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, so McCann said, quote, "It was a game I was playing. It's really, really fun." The police officer told her, "Well, it's not a game. It's theft." Okay, going to jail is fun. She claimed that she had placed the stolen merchandise in a random car, then left when she noticed police in the area. After being taken into custody, McCann admitted to police it was not a random car. In fact, it was her boyfriend's car. Quote, "My boyfriend doesn't know that I steal, and he doesn't know that I put all this bleep in the car neither. So I'm going to be really in trouble with him, but that's the thing." So why this doesn't sound all that fun at all. When removing the approximately $1,030 worth of stolen goods from her boyfriend's vehicle, folks, you'll never believe this, authorities discovered illegal drugs in the car. Police say they found a digital scale, hashish, a glass pipe with burnt residue, and empty bags of marijuana, methamphetamine, and alprazolam, better known by its brand name, Xanax. Inside a locked safe, deputies also found 1 ounce silver bars and rounds, copper bars, and a 1 gram platinum bar. Was she going to Fort Knox? Why do you have platinum in your car?
A bar of platinum.
Where did she steal that from?
I don't know.
Tell me you have thoughts about banks without telling me you have thoughts about banks.
McCann was arrested and faces charges of grand theft, marijuana possession, hashish possession, alprazolam possession, possession of drug paraphernalia, and trafficking in methamphetamine. She is being held in Flagler County Jail on bond of $34,000. Just kept getting worse.
Yeah, it sure did.
Going to jail is fun. Yeah, so I'm not sure why she thought this was fun. I'm not sure why she tried to claim that shoplifting was a game to police officers, but
Called 21.
it's called 21. 21 what? Where does that come from? Again, I apparently was not aware of this version of 21.
No.
Oh.
All right, those are our two stories for today. We've got
Two really good ones.
Yeah, we've got the mother-daughter couple who were giving out fake butt injections.
The family who injects the family does butt lifts together stays together.
The BBL
Yeah.
family. And then we've got the woman who stole merchandise and her story kept unraveling and she had platinum. I just don't understand that part. More than the crime-related questions, why do you have this? Why do you have it, period? Why would it be in your car? Platinum?
Platinum.
I've never seen platinum. Like, in physical form.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that would look like. I'm about to Google it, but a platinum bar.
Does that like glow? No, yeah, that'd be uranium. It probably wouldn't let you have one of those.
No.
Inanimate carbon rod, like on The Simpsons.
Why do you have plutonium in your car, ma'am? All right, who gets the vote today?
I think it's got to be her. As much as I enjoyed saying illegal butt injections on the radio and will miss not getting to say it again, she was just shoplifting, and it's a funnier story to me that she was, we've had bootleg medical doctors and remember bootleg braces?
Oh, yeah.
Bootleg braces won a month.
Legendary story.
So there's precedent here.
Putting braces on in his basement.
Yeah, it was on Facebook. Caution, this will hurt.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Spencer, what's your vote?
This is a hard one.
This is a good way to open the week.
It really is. I still don't know why she had all that stuff in her car. Like, that's got to be it for me.
Who has platinum?
Yeah.
Very strange. She's selling or trafficking drugs, allegedly. Breaking other laws. Yeah, that's got to be my pick too. That is our winner, 21. The new version of 21. That is our winner today in What Is Wrong With You. Coming up on the other side of this break, there's a lot of pitcher injuries going on in Major League Baseball. Some big names are going to go through Tommy John surgery in the coming days if they haven't already happened. And now we've got a fight between the players and Major League Baseball itself. What is the issue behind them? We'll try to get to the bottom of it coming up on 580 Sports Talk. 442 on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan Spencer here with you. Thanks for hanging out with us on the show today. If you've been paying attention to news around Major League Baseball, you will have seen that in the last few days, Yuri Perez of the Miami Marlins, elbow injury, he's going to have Tommy John. Shane Bieber, former Cy Young Award winner for Cleveland, elbow injury, he's going to have Tommy John. And it sure seems like Spencer Strider for the Atlanta Braves, who has an elbow injury, problems with his UCL, is going to have what would be his second Tommy John surgery. I don't think it is out of pocket for me to say this is not good for baseball. You want your stars out there as much as in a league that frankly has really struggled to help build its own stars for a long time now. Having Perez, who's a really good pitcher, Bieber, who's a really good pitcher, Strider, who's a really good pitcher. Strider, especially for one of the best teams in all of baseball, one of the faces of those teams, helps that he has, the noticeable face with the mustache. Not having those guys out there is a big deal.
And it's not just those guys either.
No.
Shohei Ohtani is not pitching this season after his second Tommy John surgery. Jacob deGrom is not pitching this season, a multi-time Cy Young Award winner. The 2022 National League Cy Young Award winner, Sandy Alcantara, is recovering from Tommy John surgery.
Another Marlin.
Robbie Ray, another former Cy Young winner, should be back mid-season, but again, recovering from Tommy John. Other guys who are all-stars, who are on the shelf right now for most or all of this season. Shane McClanahan of Tampa Bay, Lucas Giolito of Boston, Felix Bautista, the star closer for the Baltimore Orioles.
Not to mention Steven Strasburg that can't play anymore because of an arm injury.
We're talking about Tommy John's, though.
Yeah, I mean, he had Tommy John.
Yeah,
he could have had Tommy John again.
These are guys right now who would be pitching if not for these injuries. That is a remarkable collection of talent.
Yeah, it's a World Series rotation right there.
Those are guys you turn on the TV to watch pitch, and they're out. And that is not good. There's no way you can spin that into being anything other than bad for baseball.
And the league has taken notice. The players have taken notice. And Major League Baseball's Players Association put out a statement the other day about that epidemic of pitcher injuries. And one of the main things they brought up is the pitch clock. Now, that's a big contributor to this. In part, the statement reads, despite unanimous player opposition and significant concerns regarding health and safety, the commissioner's office reduced the length of the pitch clock last December, just one season removed from imposing the most significant rule change in decades. Since then, our concerns about health impacts of reduced recovery time have only intensified. The league's unwillingness thus far to acknowledge or study the effects of these profound changes is an unprecedented threat to our game and its most valuable asset, the players. That was from Tony Clark, the head of the Players Association. MLB has released its own statement pushing back on that, which, again, in part reads as such. This statement ignores the empirical evidence and much more significant long-term trend over multiple decades of spin and velocity increases that are highly correlated with arm injuries. Nobody wants to see pitchers get hurt in this game, which is why MLB is currently undergoing a significant comprehensive research study to the causes of this long-term increase, interviewing prominent medical experts, et cetera, et cetera. Essentially, the players say it's the pitch clock and being shortened again. It's fault. MLB says, no, the fact that everyone is throwing this hard, spinning this much, trying to get bigger, faster, stronger with their arms every single year, that is the problem here. I don't think either side is necessarily to blame or is necessarily 100% right about all of this stuff. I do think MLB, and I hate to give Big B baseball credit here, I think MLB is more right than the Players Association, to be honest with you. This to me is reminiscent of the head injury, the concussion problem, the CTE problem in football. The CTE problems are not an NFL issue. They are more than anything. That's like a college, high school Pop Warner issue. It's getting hit in the head over and over and over again for 3 months every fall from the time you're 9 years old or whatever, and then doing it again in high school for 4 seasons, in college for 4 seasons, and then the NFL for however long you're in the league. The repeated hits to the head doesn't take a genius to say, yeah, that's probably not good for you. my perspective, and you played the game obviously at a higher level than either of us and than most people, Dan, but if you're a little type and you're throwing max speed stuff all the time, and now we can get into a whole other thing about extra training and showcasing and all of that, and you're working on spin rate and velocity and a full pitch arsenal, again, literally as a child, well, that's going to show up when you're a teenager, when you are a prospect, when you're about to break in, when you do make it to Major League Baseball. We've all heard about preemptive Tommy John at this point, which is insane. Like the thought of that is insane. So to me, this is much more, and maybe there is a problem with the pitch clock being shortened again. I would not have shortened it again. I thought last year was fine, to be honest with you, as an observer. But to me, the bigger issue is we, as a population, are apparently more okay than not with youngsters and kids and preteens trying to throw as hard as they possibly can their entire baseball lives, or trying to throw curveballs at 10 years old. That's not good for you. It can't be good for you.
That used to be the thing, right? Like, don't throw a curveball until you're 12 or 14 years old. And
that was a rule in Little League when I was a kid. Our league, it was no curveballs.
And I think now we have less injuries that can be attributed to overuse, right? Like kids like throwing too many pitches, or amateurs throwing too many pitches. We have many states, including Kansas, that institute pitch counts at the high school level. Those are good changes, and we have seen less injuries that come down to wear and tear. And that started from the grassroots level on up. Just like the solution to this problem is going to have to start from the grassroots level on up. But the big problem that the baseball industry has, it's a winning business, right? You're in the business of winning if you're a Major League Baseball organization, unless you're the Oakland A's. But when winning is the goal, you optimize your tools to give yourself the best chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
What wins in NASCAR? Speed, right? Speed wins in auto racing. So you build a faster car.
Mm-hmm.
You build the cars to push the limits of speed, but then you put a lot of strain on the tires. You put the drivers at greater risk. So what's the solution that the industry puts on those cars? The restrictor plates.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't go 250 miles an hour tearing down the back straight at Talladega. You can't do it. So you have a solution from the governing body. What wins in golf right now? Distance.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the ball as far as you can.
Yep.
Better equipment, better balls. But courses only have but so much room to grow in response to that.
Mm-hmm.
You turn everything into a pitch and putt. So what is golf doing? They're instituting a rollback of the golf ball. By 2028, pros will be playing a rolled back golf ball. There will be a restriction on the golf ball. That's coming in 2028. And then in 2030, it's coming for all of us. Whether you're an amateur golfer or you're a pro, we'll all be playing with a rollback ball in 6 years. What wins in baseball? Power. Power wins in baseball. The easiest way to score runs is to hit the ball hard and to hit it far. The easiest way to stop hitters from doing that is to throw the heck out of it and spin the heck out of it. But the human arm isn't built to withstand all that. It's an unnatural motion. Alex Cora, the manager of the Red Sox, spoke really eloquently about this when he was asked about it on Friday, that the natural throwing motion for a human is underhand. That's why softball pitchers can throw like 300 pitches in an afternoon and then come back and do it the next day.
Mm-hmm.
The overhand pitching motion is not natural, and the arm is only built to withstand but so much. So that's the problem. But we don't have a solution yet from the governing bodies of baseball. And it kind of becomes a vicious cycle. Pitchers are too good. So hitters have to hit for power because it's harder to string together a bunch of singles to score a run. So when you make contact, it better go far and long, right? So that makes the hitters all threats. The hitters are too good. So pitchers, in response, have to rip it, have to spin it, have to throw it as hard as they can with max velocity all the time. Baseball has put in rules to limit how teams optimize their tools for the good of the game.
Mm-hmm.
They've done that, eliminating the shift. That limits teams' ability to get outs, which also makes the pitchers have to be even better, which again encourages them to throw it harder, spin it faster. But they have put in rules for the good of the game, and I think they're going to have to put in some rules for the good of the game to protect pitchers a little bit as well. But that begs the question, is the rash of pitcher injuries currently a good of the game issue? Or do the teams and the pitchers themselves, this is a critical part of it, not really care all that much? I don't think the teams care. Let's look at the Tampa Bay Rays. They've got like an all-star team caliber rotation right now, all recovering from Tommy John. I mentioned McClanahan. Drew Rasmussen, I think, is having his third Tommy John. Jeffrey Springs blew out his arms last year, and Shane Baz, who was one of the best prospects in baseball, blew out his arm. That's to say nothing of guys that they've had in the recent past who've blown out their arms, like Tyler Glasnow, who no longer pitches for them. He pitches for the Dodgers. Pitching anymore is like a gig economy. If you're a pitcher, you're not the lead singer. You're not the star of the band. You're the session musician. It's a gig economy. And you know what else a gig musician is? Cheap. The Rays don't have to pay these guys because they burn them out before they even get to arbitration, never mind free agent dollars. So it's cheap to just roll these guys off like an assembly line, roll off another arm throwing 100 miles an hour with a gnarly slider, because if it burns out and he blows out, okay, we've got another one just like him. So that's one of the problems from the team perspective. From the player perspective, there was a really interesting article on the website Defector, written by an anonymous major league pitcher, who said, essentially, to bring it back to your point about CTE and concussion risks, that pitchers understand that the risk involved as a pitcher is that they might hurt their elbow, that they might hurt their shoulder, that they might need Tommy John surgery. But those are the wages of being a major league pitcher. And if you're not trying to throw it hard, trying to spin it, then you're not going to get to where you want to go. And it's just a occupational hazard at this point, is how a lot of pitchers view it, which I think that's problematic, because that goes back, that go all the way to the high school level and the amateur level. So the changes that have to take place to fix this have to start with Major League Baseball doing something to disincentivize max effort pitching, whether that's deaden the ball, whether that's move the mound back, something. But you have to disincentivize the max effort style of pitching. You have to make it viable to be able to pitch like Justin Verlander did when he broke into the major leagues. Like we talk about Nolan Ryan. Like Nolan Ryan was unbelievable. He was a freak, man. There's only one of him. But Justin Verlander's a guy, and even he never didn't escape the knife. But Justin Verlander was a guy who early in starts, he'd come out, he'd throw 92, 93, 94 with his fastball. Then later in the games, when he needed it, he'd ramp up and he'd go get 98, 99, 100. That's pitching as craft. As speaking as a baseball fan, that to me is more interesting to watch than a parade of short burst, max effort pitchers, which is what baseball and pitching have become. And I think for the good of the game, Major League Baseball needs to step in, put some rules in place. It may be years, it may be a generation before you see real impact and a real change in how pitching is taught, in how pitching is executed, but it would be for the good of the game and for the good of its participants.
I don't disagree with any of that. Your asset is the player. I agree with that. Tony Clark is right about that. But teams are going to abuse that, because we've seen that in every sport pretty much forever. You have to put guardrails in place. You need the players out there. You need the best players to be out there. Baseball's got to have that. We're off a little bit early today, so we just have a half an hour left, and we will fill it up with our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up after the news. now it's the final half hour of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero, and Spencer Dupuis all joining you here. Off at 5:30 for pregame coverage of the men's NCAA Tournament National Championship, UConn versus Purdue. Kevin Kugler and Clark Kellogg will be on the national call. That is coming up here in 24 minutes from right now here on 580 WIBW. We'll get you a final word and our 580 Sports Talk headlines for the day coming up. If you've missed any of the show, go check out our website, 580WIBW.com. Go to the podcasts tab and just click on 580 Sports Talk. You can also go back to our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Rewind the show to whatever hour you missed, whatever segment you missed, and you can go watch and listen right that way as well. We're still taking your texts on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We're still taking your YouTube comments as well, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. But let's just dive right on in since we're short on time to today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. First one for the day will come in a moment, though, after I give you our word of the hour for the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest. A trip to anywhere you want, paid for by Alpha Media. And to enter between now and 6 o'clock, all you have to do is go to our website, 580WIBW.com, and enter the keyword, which this hour is keyword.
What?
KEYWORD. Keyword.
All right, I'm going to need to talk to whoever created this keyword.
I got the official list right here in front of me. Keyword is the keyword. This is like setting your computer password as password. But keyword is the keyword. So go to 580WIBW.com. Go, you'll see our video stream right in the middle of the page. Go one link down. You will see where it says Choose Your Trip 2024 with multiple exclamation points. We're so excited about this. You click on that, then enter the keyword, which again for this hour is keyword. It only works till 6. Only until 6. So enter it ASAP, and you'll be entered into the Alpha Media Choose Your Trip contest.
I feel like they did the gag on The Office like that. Like, your password is password?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have somebody text her on the Top City Mail Supply text line for the 913 just mentioned the password is password.
Oh, my gosh. All right, let's get to the headlines. First up for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, couple for K-State women's basketball to get to. Aoka Lee made it official this weekend. She is going to return to K-State for her final season. I was not aware of this. Did you know this is going to be her 7th season in college basketball?
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, I did not realize it was going to be 7. I thought 5 or 6.
She redshirted her true freshman season. She got a medical redshirt 22-23
last year, yeah.
And then the COVID year.
Yeah, which, hey, if she can still play, good for her. I saw last time we checked a multi-round mock draft that had her going second round in the WNBA draft. You might make more with NIL payouts this year. So good for her. K-State should be pretty darn good again coming up next year. 200
and some change points away from being the program's all-time leading scorer.
Yeah, I have a pretty good feeling she's going to get that taken care of. Not too worried about that. Also, K-State finishes 19th in the final women's top 25 poll for this year. Great year for K-State. We gave a little post-mortem for them after their season came to an end, and you hope that with Aoka Lee back for one more year, you can make one more run to finally get that first Sweet 16 in, frankly, far too long.
Yeah. Nice to have your focal point, your leading scorer, somebody who's going to be a preseason All-American, and somebody with a lot of experience back with what should be a pretty experienced K-State team next year.
Yeah, that's a big add for them because I think it's fair to say there will feel like a little more pressure on the team come next year after falling short of expectations and hopes this year. So to have your centerpiece back, obviously a big deal. So good for Aoka Lee to return. Good for the program to finish the year top 20. And hopefully bright things to come for Jeff Mitty's group.
First headline for me, folks, it's Masters Week. It is Masters Week. Jim Nance is warming up the vocal cords for the most enthusiastic hello friends he's ever given. He won't be drained by the emotion of the NCAA championship. We're getting the full Jim Nance.
That's true.
We're not getting a Jim Nance whose energy reserves have been depleted in any way. We're getting tanned, rested, and ready Jim Nance at Augusta this weekend. We are also getting, it would appear, Tiger Woods. Barring a setback in the next 4 days, it seems likely that Tiger will make his 26th appearance in the tournament. The 48-year-old spent some time in the practice area over the weekend. The Masters official Twitter account posted pictures yesterday of Tiger Woods getting some swings in. Tiger made the cut last year for the 23rd consecutive time, but unfortunately had to withdraw before the resumption of the rain-delayed third round. Last time we saw Tiger was the Genesis Invitational in February. He played just a round and a half before having to withdraw due to the flu. Consecutive cuts for Tiger Woods. You think he makes it 24?
No.
I know you've been the Tiger Woods is washed guy for.
I mean, he keeps making the cut. I give him credit for that. I've been wrong multiple times, but Father Time always wins. And I'm amazed he's even trying, to be honest with you. I really am. More power to him.
Also in the field this week, Gary Woodland. We have a texter from the Top Emails Applied text line from 785. Says, go G-Dub. Did anybody see the story that ESPN did?
What a great piece.
Yeah, shout out to Jeff Darlington of ESPN who reported that. Adam Schefter tweeted that yesterday.
Yeah, I have a bookmarked. Haven't watched it yet.
It ran on, I think it ran on Sports Center on Sunday.
At 8 a.m.
And really, really well done. I think you can probably find it at ESPN.com, but you can certainly, if you have a Twitter account, you can find Adam Schefter's Twitter account, and he tweeted it out. Worth the 7.5 minutes or so just to understand what Gary was really going through last year, which is just unbelievable what he had to go through, and the scope of his recovery, and that he gets to be, as a previous major champion, back in the field at the Masters, coming off of his best ever finish at Augusta last year. He tied for 14th. So we'll be certainly keeping an eye on how G-Dub fares when the Masters tees off on Thursday.
Yeah, couldn't be more happy for Gary. I know all of Topeka and really this whole area in general is rooting for him, and just great to see. Really, really happy that he is out there and just healthy. I mean, that's the thing that's obviously the most important. So hopefully he's able to put up another good showing, and we've seen some pretty miraculous stories at Augusta before. Would not complain about another one from G-Dub coming up this weekend. Your first headline, Spencer.
Yeah, we'll go back to women's college basketball because this made the ESPN ticker. Not many times does Marshall-related things make the ESPN ticker, but that's because Tennessee has named Marshall's Kim Caldwell their new head coach. She replaces Kelly Harper. This is the first time that since before Pat Summitt that they go out of the coaching tree the coaching tree or players that played at Tennessee.
What is Tennessee as a women's basketball program? Like historically, one of the most. Yeah, they are a blue blood program because they've been there from the beginning. They're old money in women's college basketball.
Make the tournament every year, recruit at a high level. They just haven't had the March success.
Like where are they on the active hierarchy?
I mean, they're obviously well below South Carolina and UConn when it comes to the blue bloods of the sport. And I mean, I think it's been 07, 08 last time they won a title.
I believe you're correct about. I think 2008 sounds right, but I will look that up for you, and for me as well, not just for you. It's been quite a while for them. I also know. Why is this so hard to pull up? What are you doing to me here? Okay, so the last time Tennessee won a national championship, 2008. That is correct.
So that would put them in are they Kentucky? Because it's been a while since they made a Final Four. Are they? Is that kind of where they're at in program wise right now?
Probably.
I mean, that was under Pat Summitt, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. 08 was still Pat Summitt. Yes.
So no one's been able to live up to that yet.
Yeah, that's true, and that's a.
But it's always the worst thing to be is the person the coach that comes after the coach.
Well, now we're on.
But
the
now
coach
we're on
that comes after the coach that comes after the coach.
Yeah, is this 3 now? Since Coach Summitt?
Yeah, Holly Warlick was the immediate successor, and then Kelly Harper.
Yeah, they've not been to a Final Four since that last national championship.
Yeah, that's.
And they won back-to-back those 2 years. Pretty impressive. No, I was just wondering because, you think of the Lady Vols. That is an iconic women's basketball program. But
if Caldwell can lead them to a title, she will become she'll get a raise on May 1st of that season to pay her, quote, equal or exceed the highest salary of any coach of a women's basketball team in D1 of the NCAA based on publicly known salaries.
I am going to guess that does not ever happen.
No, but I mean, like this is an interesting deal, right?
Oh, I mean,
you bring a coach that has 1 year of Division I success, but
this is like if
success in the NCAA.
This is like if Indiana had hired Josh Schertz instead of Indiana State. That's what this essentially is.
Yeah, it's a gamble, but they're also not paying her the big bucks initially, only giving her $750,000 a year.
See, well, there's my point about what are they as a program. Like if Tennessee is cheaping out, that tells me a lot more about Tennessee than it does about their new head coach.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's what that tells me.
Kara Lawson alumni turned it down.
Which again tells me a lot more about that Tennessee job than anything else.
Yeah, she got a good job at Duke.
Yeah, really good job at Duke.
And wait, you said Kara Lawson turned it down?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I mean, she's really built the Duke program back to prominence.
That's a good program.
Made the Sweet 16 this year, so that's what I was looking up.
Next headline for me: Chiefsaholic back in the news today, boys.
Let's go! We got Chiefsaholic update.
A judge has ordered Chiefsaholic to pay $10.8 million to the bank teller he threatened with a gun in December 2022. Last Wednesday, Tulsa County District Judge Tracy Pretty ordered Xavier Babadar, widely known as Chiefsaholic, to pay former teller Peyton Garcia $3.6 million for inflicting physical harm and emotional distress, and another $7.2 million in punitive damages. Babadar's attorney, Major Goofball Doofus Matthew Merriman, did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Garcia's attorney, Frank Frazier, acknowledged it will be a challenge to collect on the money. Babadar was unemployed and living in cars at the time of his crimes. He reached a federal plea agreement in February, admitting to stealing $800K in 11 robberies. The plea deal requires him to pay at least $532,675 in restitution to the financial institutions robbed. But the point is two things, the lawyer, Frazier, says. He'll never be able to profit from this. Say he writes a book in prison, say he does the Lifetime or the Hallmark movie, anything he obtains will be paid to his creditors. The second part overall is this. The judge sent a message that you cannot profit from crime. You cannot profit by greater notoriety. You cannot profit from clicks, getting more views, getting more likes. I wish that was true in all cases. It is absolutely not, but a nice message nonetheless from Frank Frazier.
I just love reading the description of him. Babadar built a large social media following, cultivating an image of an ambitious, generous young man who enjoyed gambling, Kansas State sports, and most of all, the Chiefs.
Yeah.
$10.8 million is wild.
He would not be able to pay that in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah, like how do you feel if you hear that's the summary judgment? Like, okay, if you are the victim in this, and I do not mean to, I am in no way minimizing the trauma that the victim, Peyton Garcia, experienced I cannot imagine what it is like to have a gun pointed at you at work. I hope I never have to imagine what that is like. I am not minimizing her pain, her distress in any way. But if you hear as a victim that you are that the person who victimized you is being ordered to pay $10.8 million, and you know they ain't got it.
Yeah.
Is it a Pyrrhic victory? Like, what does that feel like? I wonder.
Well, it's funny. If he decides to write a book, well, I just wouldn't write the book.
Yeah, at this point,
I just won't do it.
Yeah, now you have no motivation if you're Chiefsaholic to dip the pen and write, the Chiefsaholic story. You know what it is, the Chiefsaholic story.
Right. Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to gain from this, except, again, getting in front of everyone and saying, hey, Chiefsaholic, remember him? Any other headlines for you?
What's his prison time again? Like, what's the sentence?
Not long.
Oh, they haven't sentenced him yet.
Yeah, he hasn't been sentenced.
Yeah, sentencing in July. Like, it's going to be long enough that by the time he gets out, we'll have forgotten about him.
This has affected her children and her marriage, according to the lawyer, Frank Frazier, about Peyton Garcia.
I believe it.
She'll never be able to go back into work in banking. It affected all aspects of her life.
I absolutely believe that. I
believe it. He's being held at Leavenworth, by the way. Not where I would want to spend a majority of my time. Any other headlines for you, Dan?
Yeah, we'll do one NCAA basketball headline real quick. Arizona star center Omar Ballo entering the transfer portal.
Yeah, that's
his
a
final
big
year
one.
of eligibility.
He's a good player. Apparently, they've got two other young big men who are coming in that they essentially want instead of Ballo. Remember earlier when we were talking about how freshmen don't win national championships anymore?
Yeah.
Good luck, Tommy.
Well, you know who else doesn't win national championships or any meaningful game in March? Tommy Lloyd.
Well, any team west of Texas. No one wins meaningful games in March. That does it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got one more break to get to. Then we'll wrap up this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. We will send you to Westwood 1 for pregame coverage of the NCAA Men's Basketball National Championship coming up here in just about 3 minutes. But first, we've got to get to our final word for today. Dan, why don't you lead us off with your final word first?
Final word for me is I think UConn is going to win their second consecutive national championship tonight. UConn's kind of been an interesting program historically because the championships they've won have been more defined by who they beat, or like in 99 when they knocked off Duke, or the unique tournament circumstances that led them to win championships, like the Kemba Walker year or the Shabazz Napier year. But if they can win back-to-back national championships, UConn cements itself. If you were not willing to call them a blue blood before, you better do it after they win tonight.
My final word is kind of related to the topic we had earlier about pitching and the injuries, and that's Steven Strasburg officially retiring after 8 months. I think it was mid-September last year. They announced there's going to be it was news broken that he was going to retire. There's going to be a press conference. Well, I'm glad that it didn't get broken this time. It was just a transaction in the MLB log is how it got broken. But unfortunately, I think 2019 winning the World Series, the domination they had, he had 209 innings pitched in the regular season, 36 and a third in the postseason, and he only pitched 31 in the third after that. I think that postseason really is what did it to him. And unfortunately, he, from what all accounts are, is he's struggling to live a normal life. And hopefully he's able to eventually over time live a normal life. But, Steven Strasburg, one of the best Nationals to ever do it, one of the best pitchers when it comes to speed and how he broke in and being a number 1 overall pick. His career has officially come to an end. And as a Nats fan, it's bittersweet knowing last year he was never going to pitch again. But it's end of, not how it wanted to end, but it ended.
Final word for me. I don't know how you can't be thrilled if you're a Kansas City Royals fan. Yeah, you beat up on a crappy divisional rival, but it's still a divisional rival, and everyone likes beating up on the Chicago White Sox. Starting pitching is humming. Offense still coming along. And if you're getting guys like Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez who have maybe turned a major corner and are making major strides as offensive, maybe even defensive players, that's going to take this team to the next level. Those are ceiling raiser kind of players, and that's a big, big deal for this Kansas City Royals team. No game tonight. There'll be an action coming up tomorrow against the Houston Astros. We, meanwhile, have coverage of the national championship coming up in just a few minutes. Pregame will begin. UConn versus Purdue. Clark Kellogg and Kevin Kugler will be on the call. We're back with you tomorrow from 2 to 6. Full show. Can't wait to bring it to you. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Enjoy the national championship. We'll talk to you tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk.